Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto became the very first Vasto Lord part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. How long had it been since he sealed himself up into this freaking crystal? What was the point of doing this again? Oh yeah, he was contacted by Kami to help save the world in the future. Man, how many times had he done that? He did it once in the human world when Madara Uchiha thought he could control the world. Then he saved both dimensions when the Hollows and the Shinigami had their war close to 3,000 years ago. Man, that was such a pointless war, as it didn't matter who killed who, since they would just be reborn in either Soul Society, Hyuko Mundo, or the human world. Is he the only one who saw that neither side could ever win a war like that? If one side won, then they would still lose, as both sides needed to be balanced for everything to continue existing. Once he showed up, though, everything changed, as he was the very first Vasto Lord and by far the most powerful. He quickly disposed of the Hollows in command of Hyuko Mundo and stopped sending attacks into Soul Society. As the new ruler, he didn't allow any Hollows to devour human souls as long as they were under his control. Thousands challenged him for control, but they all died quickly. None could stand against his power, and none dared by the end of his rule. He disposed of any Vasto Lord that might be able to unite a powerful force of Hollow that could threaten Soul Society. Thus, when he disappeared on the day that he received his message from Kami and sealed himself by removing his mask, thus making him the first and last Hollow to ever completely remove his mask. The Hollows of Hyuko Mundo became mindless beasts that could never stand against the United Soul Society, so the realms were safe for some 4,000 years. Sure, some Hollows gained the power of Vasto Lord while he was sealed, but none were nearly strong enough to unite all of Hyuko Mundo like he did. That Baragon, who now held the throne of Las Noches, his old palace, was close but wasn't strong enough to beat Naruto, not in 10,000 years. Naruto was nearing the end of his containment when he finally felt the presence that Kami warned him about 4,000 years ago. It was a Shinigami, and an extremely powerful one at that. Quickly, this Shinigami gathered Vasto Lord Hollow from across Hyuko Mundo and started to create an army. With that many on the Shinigami's side, Naruto knew he couldn't take them all out, then face the leader. Alone, one-on-one, Naruto wouldn't have any real problems, but he couldn't fight that many high-level Hollows too. So he started planning on how he would contact Soul Society. He thought that he might just go there and do a few harmless pranks to get them to realize that he wasn't so bad, but that probably wouldn't work at all. Then he could go to the human world and find a Shinigami and talk to him man to man. Once again, that probably wouldn't work, but hell, he didn't have anything better, so the second he broke out of this damn crystal, he would go to the human world to find help, and maybe do a little sightseeing, as he hadn't seen the place in over 4,000 years. Well, anyway, he was now ready to smash his way out of the crystal that held him. The crystal was made so that it could only hold so much spiritual power, and then it would shatter. Over the past 4,000 years, his Riryoku had grown greatly through constant meditation, so now all he had to do was channel enough Ryatsu and the crystal would shatter. From outside, the crystal Hollows started to gather as they watched the massive crystal begin to crack and leak Ryatsu. Pretty soon, hundreds of Hollows had gathered, just watching as the cracks began to spread across the crystal, and in a massive amount of azure light the crystal blew up, releasing all of the Ryatsu inside in one massive wave that sent the weaker Hollows running. Aizen Sosuke was not a man who was easily surprised. He knew all that there was about the world and how it ran, but when he felt a massive Ryatsu come from the depths of Hyuko Mundo, he was for the first time in his life surprised at such power, for it equaled his at his maximum output. Quickly, he and his Vasto Lord allies left the palace of Las Noches and arrived not even 10 minutes after the explosion of Ryatsu. All that remained was a massive crater littered with the shards of a massive crystal that once stood there. Hearing a gasp come from behind him, he looked at a shocked Baragon. "Baragon, please tell me why you seem to be surprised at this," asked Aizen in his soft voice that held hints of madness underneath. Aizen-sama records in Las Noches show that the very first Vasto Lord that used to rule over Hyuko Mundo used that crystal as a crypt. His power was said to have been unreachable for any Hollow or Shinigami, and was said to have been the god of all three worlds. Not even the Shinigami would dare defy his power, and left him here to rule. "That was over 4,000 years ago, before I was even a Hollow," said Baragon in a whisper. "So a powerful Vasto Lord has been released? I could use his power in the upcoming war with Soul Society. If this Vasto Lord is still in Hyuko Mundo, I want him found and brought to me," ordered Aizen as he went back to Las Noches to see these records that Baragon said were there. Naruto quickly exited the portal that he had created to the human world, and man, was he surprised. Apparently humans were much smarter than he thought they would ever be, as massive buildings stood and thousands of people walked the streets. "It seems like the world has been in relative peace since I left 4,000 years ago," Well, this place seems a little too crowded for my liking. Let's look for a place where I might be able to have some fun with some soul reapers, thought Naruto as he looked for the place that had the highest concentration of Ryatsu. He found it quickly and used Sonito to appear above the town/city. It was bigger than his old village when he was alive, but much smaller than the city he had seen earlier. Well, might as well go see the sights while I wait for some poor Shinigami to sense me, thought Naruto as he flew down to the town and stood on top of one of the buildings. Dang, look at all the freaking people living here. It looks like technology has improved since I was alive too. Look at those things on the streets, exclaimed Naruto as he continued to move from building to building. He was well aware of the fact that he was being followed by 3 powerful Shinigami. He quickly reached a large park and found a clearing that would shield them from any prying eyes. So what do 3 Shinigami want with me? Asked Naruto with his back turned. The 3 Shinigami jumped into the clearing with their swords drawn and at the ready. What are you doing here, Hollow? Demanded a man with the beard. Naruto turned and looked at the 2 men and 1 female, and the 3 quickly gasped in surprise as this Hollow didn't have any mask on his face. He had a Zanpakuto attached to his back, but still had the eyes of a Hollow. I am no longer a Hollow Shinigami, and I came here for one reason, said Naruto's serious voice he could muster. The Shinigami in the bull hat quickly reassessed this Hollow, and was quite intrigued by what he saw. Never had he felt a presence like this. It was Hollow, yet it was definitely different than any Hollow he had encountered before. Then what are you doing here in the human world? It took a lot of his self-control from saying Hollow, causing both his comrades to look him in the eyes. I came here to this city for one thing, declared the Hollow in a booming voice. That thing is ramen, laughed Naruto at the end as he scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. His proclamation quickly caused the 3 Shinigami to face fault in shock. What, you came here just to eat ramen? Screamed the purple-haired female Shinigami. Well, you see, it has been so long since I've had the food of the gods and I just can't wait any longer. Do you have any idea where I might just find some? Asked Naruto. How long has it been since you've had some ramen, Mr. Whatever your name is? Asked the man in the hat. Oh, sorry, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I think that it has been some 4,000 years since I've had a bowl of hot ramen, said Naruto to the shock of the 3 Shinigami. Did you just say that you were 4,000 years old? Yelled the man with a beard. Well, no, I'm actually around 6,000 years old. It has just been 4,000 years since I have come to the human world. So do you have no anywhere I can eat? I'd be glad to tell you my story over a bowl of ramen, as long as you don't try to kill me, whatever your names are, proposed Naruto. I don't sense any lies coming from this Hollow, if he even is a Hollow. And why not? We could learn some things from him. Though Urahara. I like this guy, thought Ishin. It looks like I'm about to be outvoted anyway, thought Yoruichi, not sure if this is how you spell it. Sorry, Naruto, my name is Kasuke Urahara, this is Ishin Kurosaki, and this is Yoruichi Shinoen. Now if you would follow us, we will take you to my place where you can eat and tell us your fascinating story. I must say you are probably one of the most fascinating people I have ever seen, said Urahara. Urahara was right, as Naruto was wearing a white cloak with azure trimmings on the edge. He had blonde spiky hair hung in front of his eyes a bit. His eyes were the eyes of a Hollow, but one could easily read the emotion in them. No, he definitely wasn't something you saw every day. They quickly reached Urahara's shop and were sitting down listening to Naruto as he told his story of when he was alive all the way up to the present, while he was slurping down noodles. The 3 elder Shinigami were for a loss of words at the moment. They were here talking to the first ever Vasto Lord and the being that ended the great Shinigami Hollow Wars 5,000 years ago. Yet he didn't play the part and acted and looked like any normal teenager, and that is when they got the idea. So what do the 3 of you think? Asked Naruto as he finished his 50th bowl of ramen. Well, we would gladly help you, but you see, we need you to do a favor for us, said Urahara. What is this favor that you want done? Asked Naruto, who was very curious to this favor. We want you to go back to school, stated Ishin as he read Urahara's mind. What? Shouted a surprised Naruto. Yep, but while in school you can learn about the world, and we want you to help Ishin's kid. His Ryatsu has been growing quickly, and we fear that more Hollows might come after him. Well, I guess those are some good reasons. What the heck, I will do it. I haven't talked to people my age in so long, said Naruto to the confusion of the 3 Shinigami. You're older than all of us, so how does that work? Asked Yoruichi. Well, you see, you all are really old looking, shouted Naruto to the anger of Yoruichi and the amusement of Urahara and Ishin. Sensing Yoruichi's anger, Urahara quickly changed topics. So if you aren't a Hollow anymore, what are you? Asked Urahara. Well, I guess you could call me a Forsaken, as this is what Kami called me when we talked, said Naruto. I guess that is a pretty good name, said Urahara. So how will I be able to go to this school in the first place? Asked Naruto. Well, I will make you a Jigai and then I will buy you an apartment to stay in. Just be sure to study the books we get you and you should be fine, said Urahara as he walked into a room in the back. Okay, where are these books at? Asked Naruto. Right here, said Urahara as he brought a huge pile of books into the room. Oh, okay, at least that shouldn't take too long to read since I can use my clones to read them, said Naruto. Clones? Questioned Yoruichi. Yep, I can use my Ryatsu to make clones that transfer any knowledge they learn back to me, said Naruto as he made 30 clones in that room and commanded them to start reading the books in the back room. Wow, that is handy, said Urahara. Got that straight, so where would this apartment be? Asked Naruto. Oh, don't worry, I will take you there later. Why don't you just go out in town and wait for me to make you a Jigai? It shouldn't take more than an hour, said Urahara as he went further into the shop. Well, I really have nothing better to do at the moment, and since no one can see me it would be pointless to out to town. So do the two of you want to spar a bit? Asked Naruto. You have yourself a challenge, Uzumaki, shouted Isshin as he jumped to his feet while pulling Yoruichi to her feet at the same time. Good, let's just keep it at Shirkai then since we don't want anyone getting hurt too badly, said Naruto. So you know Shirkai then? Asked Yoruichi. Yeah, I had like 4,000 years to meet and get to know my Zanpakuto. Learned all stages of both the Hollow and Shinigami releases, and I even found a way to mix both together for an ultimate release. But I only will ever use that in a dire circumstance, said Naruto to the shock of both ex-captains. 2 hours later, after an intense spar between the first Vasto Lord and Shinigami 2 ex-captains, we find the two captains covered by numerous cuts from the blonde. Well, I guess the two of you have an idea at the level I'm at, huh? Asked Naruto as the two captains nodded their heads. Yeah, I guess you weren't kidding when you said that you fought 5 Vasto Lord and still won, said Isshin. I don't ever lie, believe it, yelled Naruto. How can you already be back to normal like that? Asked Yoruichi. Well, I've always had impressive stamina and advanced healing, even when I was alive. When I became a Vasto Lord, those features just multiplied in effectiveness, said Naruto. Well, Naruto, I'm pleased to tell you that I finished your Jigai while you were fighting. That Shirkai of yours is quite dangerous and destructive, said Urahara as he led Naruto down the halls of his store. Well, you should see the Bankai then. It is about 10 times as effective as my Shirkai, but I never will use it during a spar, said Naruto, to which Urahara just nodded his head. Well, I will give you your keys to the apartment and the address. From now on your name is Naruto Uzumaki, from a mountain town from northern Japan and school student. Don't worry about any of the things that you need in your apartment. I have food and money already prepared for you. You can go get clothing on your own time, said Urahara as he showed him his body. Everything was the same as when he was alive, including the blue eyes and the whisker marks on see ya another time, or if I need anything, and if you need anything don't hesitate to ask. I am no longer just a hollow being with no heart, laughed Naruto as he exited the shop with his keys and his address for his new house. 2 hours later at 5 p.m. somewhere in Karakura town. Dang, I don't know any of these street names, why didn't I just ask for directions? Cried Naruto as he walked down the street looking at any street sign he could. Dang you, Urahara, you knew that this would happen. Do you need help looking for something? Asked a voice that obviously belonged to a girl. Naruto wheeled around to find 2 girls standing behind him in matching school uniforms with short skirts. One had ginger-colored hair and wide but dopey smile on her face, and dare he say it massive. The other had short black spiky hair, a trim body that screamed that she knew how to fight, and was looking at him with the eyebrow in the air as if she was confused about his antics. In Naruto's opinion, she looked pretty cute with the expression on her face. Oh, that would be awesome if you knew where this address leads to, said Naruto as he handed them a piece of paper with the address on it, and flashed them a bright smile. They both looked at him and then the paper, quickly finding that it was right next door to Oriheim's. He seems nice enough with the smile and all. He is tall, has wide shoulders, and it looks like he has trained at least once in his life. I guess it wouldn't be too bad to help this guy out, thought Tatsuki. Well, I guess you're in luck since we were heading to Oriheim's apartment, which happens to be right by yours, said the girl with black hair. Really? That is great, at least now I know at least one of my neighbors. It is nice to meet you, Oriheim, and you are? Questioned Naruto as he held his hands out and shook both Oriheim's hand and Tatsuki's. Tatsuki, so what is your name? Questioned the girl known as Tatsuki. Oh, sorry, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Sorry, but do you think I could stay with the two of you until we get there? Asked Naruto. That would be great. Maybe since you live by me, you can eat dinner with us tonight. I know that you would love my cooking, said an excited Orihime, while Tatsuki rolled her eyes. Yeah, no problem, I wouldn't feel right about just leaving you to wander the streets of Karakura, said Tatsuki as the group walked down the street with Naruto close behind looking at all the marvels of the modern world. Why do you keep on looking at everything as if it was the first time you've seen it before? Questioned Tatsuki as she was on alert to everything the blonde did since she barely knew him. What? Oh, sorry, I grew up in a village in southern Japan. I have never been in a town like this before, said Naruto to their surprise. Wow, so like this is the first time you've ever been to a place like this. Why did you come here then? Questioned Orihime. Well, my guardian where I used to live died recently, and I decided to come here so that I could achieve a better life. I am planning on attending Karakura High School tomorrow after I get situated tonight, said Naruto to their surprise. Well, I'm sure you would also have trouble finding the school tomorrow. So Orihime and me can walk with you to school, offered Tatsuki. That would be great. I didn't think I would find any friendly people here, yet I found the two of you, or should I say you found me, said Naruto as he adopted a thinking pose, making Orihime giggle a bit and Tatsuki to smile. So Naruto, do you have any hobbies? Asked Tatsuki as she wanted to get to know the guy better. Yes, I do. I guess I like to training, reading, and practicing my swordsmanship. I dislike people who believe themselves to be better than anyone else, and if someone has a stick shoved up their rear end, said Naruto. Oh, you practice martial arts too, like Tatsuki. Maybe the two of you should spar sometime since Tatsuki is like one of the best in the state at martial arts, suggested Orihime. I would enjoy that a bit. How about it, Tatsuki? Just name the time and place and I will show up, but of course it would only be a friendly spar. I don't want to end up with a black eye or anything, said Naruto. Fine, Naruto, maybe after school tomorrow we meet at the dojo I go to and we can spar. Maybe you can join the men's team if you are good enough, said Tatsuki. You will just have to find out for yourselves if I'm good enough, Tatsuki, replied Naruto. Yeah, I guess so. What is up with the lines on your cheeks? Asked Tatsuki. Oh, my whisker marks, I've had them since I was born. I guess they are a birthmark, and most people say I look like a fox because of them, said Naruto as he grinned a bit to show his foxy smile. Oh, you do look like a fox. Maybe a fox demon was sealed inside of you when you were a child, and those are the exact reasons why you had to be raised by a guardian, and those whisker marks are the influence of the fox, suggested Orihime in an excited voice. Naruto stopped in place for a second, but quickly realized that what she said was just a joke, or at least he thought that it was. Tatsuki saw him for a second freeze up and his eyes widen in surprise, but she just brushed it aside as he was probably just surprised by what Orihime came up with on the spot. Wow, that was probably the most accurate guess about me from anyone I've ever known in my 6,000-year-old life, thought Naruto as he joined the conversation again and just told him everything he could about himself and listened to what they had to say about themselves. Dinner at Orihime's was nice and Naruto loved her cooking. It was some of the best food he had eaten, but not as good as ramen. Tatsuki could help herself from having her jaw hit the floor as Naruto ate Orihime's cooking and even had seconds. Pretty soon dinner ended and Naruto bid the two girls good night as he walked towards his apartment. Inside he found his dream come true as hundreds of cups of instant ramen filled every cupboard. Remind me to thank Urahara when I see him again, he said to himself as he undressed and jumped into bed and quickly fell asleep. So Tatsuki, what did you think of Naruto? Asked Orihime as the two sat on one of the couches. He seems like a really nice guy and reminds me of Ichigo and the way he talks about friendship. I guess I could grow to really like him, said Tatsuki to the surprise of Orihime. Really? I thought it would take more than that just to accept a guy for you. I mean, you barely tolerate Kigo, so I didn't think you would allow another guy to join our group, said Orihime. I barely tolerate Kigo because he is an obnoxious pervert, but Naruto seems like really nice guy who likes to do martial arts. So it is a little different with Naruto, responded Tatsuki. You know what I think, Tatsuki? I think that you have a crush on Naruto, squealed Orihime. What? Came the shout of Tatsuki followed by a giggling coming from Orihime. That morning at 7:30 Naruto was quickly going around getting everything ready for his first day of school. His clones dispelled last night after quickly reading the books 2 times each and now he was pretty confident on how he would do in the studies at the school. He had just gotten dressed in his school clothes and was eating a cup of ramen when his door was knocked on. He makes his way to the door with his backpack on and him eating the cup of ramen. Opening the door, he is greeted by both Tatsuki and Orihime, who are both giggling at the fact that he has a bunch of noodles hanging from his mouth. "Hey! I guess it is time for my first day at school then?" asked Naruto after he swallowed the noodles. "Yeah, it takes a little while to walk to the school. We'll introduce you to our friends when it's time for lunch," said Tatsuki. "Great, I hope everyone is as nice as you two," said Naruto as he followed them down the road. "All our friends are friendly, but there are some jerks at our school who just like to make fun of others for being different," said Tatsuki. "Well, that can't be too bad," said Naruto. It took around 15 minutes for them to reach the school, and they were forced to split apart as Naruto had to go get his schedule from the office. It didn't take long, and soon Naruto found himself outside of his homeroom. Knocking on the door, he was soon faced with a female teacher who smiled brightly at him. Ushering him in, the teacher told him to introduce himself to the class. Before he started, though, he noticed both Tatsuki and Orihime in the class with him and flashed smile at the two females. "Hello, my is Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, training, reading, and kendo. I dislike people who think they are better than everyone else and people who try and hurt my friends. My dreams for the future are to whom." "Holy crap, man, you have orange hair!" shouted Naruto at the end as he pointed at Ichigo, who now was looking furious. Then again, I shouldn't be surprised since I had used to have friends who naturally had pink, blue, and silver hair, so orange is kind of refreshing, laughed Naruto at the end, which caused Ichigo to calm down a bit. Both Tatsuki and Orihime were both trying not to laugh at this, as Tatsuki was the one who told Naruto to do it if he got placed in their homeroom. The teacher told him to take a seat at one of the two empty seats in the room. One was by Ichigo and the other was by Tatsuki, and since he knew Tatsuki, he sat next to her and flashed a smile at her, causing her to blush a bit. Naruto quickly became bored from the lecture and looked around the room and noticed a few people who stood out above the rest. They were the tall Spanish-looking guy who he heard was named Sato, then there was the guy with glasses and seemed to act too much like Sasuke for his liking. These two seemed to stick out in his senses like Ichigo, Orihime, and Tatsuki did. Soon enough, the lunch bell rang and Naruto was quickly dragged from his seat by both Tatsuki and Orihime and led to the roof of the building. "Not that I don't mind two beautiful women dragging me to the roof, but why are we going to the roof in the first place?" asked Naruto, causing both women to blush a bit. "Shut up, Naruto, our group of friends, and us always eat at the top of the roof. They should already be up there," said Tatsuki as she dragged Naruto up the stairs with a blush still on her cheeks at Naruto calling her beautiful. "Hey guys, we thought we might just invite the new guy Naruto up here to eat lunch with us today," said Tatsuki as she kicked open the door. There sat Chad, Ichigo, Kigo, and Mizuiro, all watching Naruto, who grinned at them. "And nice to meet all of you," said Naruto while scratching the back of his head. "Nice to meet you, Naruto," came the deep voice of Chad. "Nice to meet you too, Sato, I think. Right, Tatsuki?" asked Naruto as he turned to Tatsuki, who nodded her head. "So Tatsuki and Orihime brought you up together, did they? Is there something you're not telling us, Mr. Whiskers?" shouted Kigo as he began to examine Naruto, but was suddenly kicked in the face by a mad Tatsuki. "Stop being a pervert, Kigo," shouted Tatsuki. "Ah, Kigo, why do you always have to do that?" "Well, it's nice to meet you, Naruto. My name is Mizuiro," said Mizuiro as he shook the blonde's hand. "I'm guessing that you're Strawberry then?" asked Naruto with a smile, causing Ichigo to scowl before smirking. "I guess that makes you correct, Fishcake," said Ichigo, causing Naruto to grin back. "We're going to get along just fine, Guardian," laughed Naruto as he shook Ichigo's hand. "I hope so, Maelstrom," Ichigo responded as he shook Naruto's hand back. For the rest of lunch, the group just talked and ate their lunches, getting to know Naruto better, and for the first time in a while Naruto actually felt accepted by others. Hopefully when that Shinigami makes his move, all of them won't be caught in the crossfire. "I swear that I will protect all of my new friends with my life," thought Naruto as he looked at each of the people eating lunch. "Tatsuki here even challenged Naruto to a spar after school today. You should all come and watch," said Orihime, bringing Naruto out of his mind. "It's just a friendly spar, Orihime. I doubt everyone here wants to see some fight," said Naruto, but when he saw the shocked faces on each of the guys, he was confused. "What, do I have something on my teeth?" No, but Tatsuki rarely ever challenges anyone to a fight. It is usually just the other way around," said Ichigo. "Hey! Just because I normally don't go around challenging people to fights, doesn't mean that I don't challenge people at all," shouted Tatsuki. "Well, the last time you challenged someone it was Ichigo, Tatsuki," stated Orihime. "So?" asked Tatsuki as she glared at everyone gathered around her besides Naruto, who watched all of this with interest. And nothing at all, Tatsuki, just try not to kill our new friend, said Mizuiro. With that final piece of advice, lunch ended and the rest of the day went without a single hitch until after school, when both Naruto and Tatsuki were both in sparring gear and were ready for their spar. Off to the side stood all of Naruto's new friends and most of the karate club. Begin! Shouted a person who was watching the match. Both combatants smirked at each other before running right at the other. Naruto had judged her strength before the fight began, and was just around her level and everything, so this fight would be a battle of skill, not strength. Tatsuki launched a series of punches and kicks that were aimed at throwing Naruto off guard. But being 6,000 years old had its advantages, as Naruto dodged instead of blocking the attacks so that he wouldn't be put off balance. Finally seeing an opening, Naruto struck out with his fist and hit Tatsuki in the shoulder, as she pulled back to avoid a more damaging area. Pushed off the attack, Tatsuki could see that she was outmatched by the blonde. He easily kept her on the defensive and didn't waste a single movement when he attacked or defended. Every time he spotted an opening, he lashed out and hit a cluster of nerves that made whatever the appendage that was hit feel much heavier. Yet throughout the fight, the blonde didn't look like he was even pushing himself to his limit. It infuriated her that there was such a gap in their skill. Finally Naruto got in close and landed several hits to her arms and legs, causing her to freeze up and fall to the ground. However, before she hit the ground, she was wrapped by two large arms and picked up. She looked up to see Naruto smiling at her. "You did really good, Tatsuki, but you have room for improvement. Don't take it as a bad thing though, for there is always room for improvement," said Naruto as he carried her in a bridal position to his new friends. "Wow, you beat Tatsuki without even taking a single hit," shouted Kigo. "Well, where I lived I was forced to learn how to fight at a young age, otherwise it meant death," said Naruto grimly while the others looked at him with shock. Tatsuki could feel his body shake the second he said this and promised herself that she would figure out what he meant by that statement. "What was that style of fighting you used there, Naruto?" asked Ichigo, who looked interested with the way the blonde beat his old rival. "Oh, that was a style that I learned from a friend of mine a while back ago. She called it the Jukin, and it hit the nerve clusters on the body, causing them to freeze up and slow movements. I modified it a bit to add more flexibility to the style since I like to flow like the air," said Naruto. "Hey Naruto, why did you take it easy on me?" asked Tatsuki tiredly. "Sorry Tatsuki, it wasn't to hurt your pride or anything, but I wanted to know which one of us was more skilled, not who was stronger. I know this one style where I can smash the bones in the body," said Naruto as Tatsuki smiled and murmured a tired okay. "Well, does anyone know where Tatsuki lives? I should probably take her home, since I am the one who put her into this position," said Naruto honestly. "No, don't worry about it, Naruto, I'm feeling better now," said Tatsuki as she got out of Naruto's arms and began walking to collect her things. "No, you aren't, Tatsuki. I know what that style does and you are in no condition to defend yourself, so I am going to walk you home despite what you say," said Naruto as he smiled at her. "Well, I can see that you have everything under control, Naruto. Make sure she gets home, she is one of my oldest friends, so if you hurt her I will beat you senseless," warned Ichigo. "Don't worry, I would never hurt a friend of mine, Ichigo. Tatsuki will reach her house without a single problem," answered Naruto truthfully, to which Ichigo smiled and nodded. "Well, we need to go study for a test tomorrow, but afterwards we are going to the mall, you should come with us," suggested Ichigo as Chad nodded and the group of males all left, heading for Ichigo's home. "I might do that, Ichigo. Tatsuki, you ready to leave yet?" asked Naruto as Tatsuki came out of the changing room ready to leave. "Yes, I am, Naruto, I don't know why you have to escort me home," she responded. "Because I have seen horrible things in this world and have promised to protect every one of my friends," said Naruto as he walked out of the door with Tatsuki leaning against him for support. The walk to Tatsuki's was spent in mostly silence, with a few words spoken here and there, but it was a comfortable silence. Nearing her house, Tatsuki decided to question Naruto on something that nagged her since they left the dojo. "Naruto, what were you talking about when you said that you've seen horrible things before?" asked Tatsuki softly. She felt his body tighten in response and knew whatever it was hurt him deeply. "Tatsuki, I trust you a lot and you are a great friend, but I don't feel like talking about it. Maybe someday I will talk to you about, but until then I want you to forget that you ever heard something," said Naruto sadly. "I'm sorry if it hurt you, Naruto, I promise not to bring it up again," she replied. It took less than a minute to reach Tatsuki's and he quickly said goodbye to her and was utterly surprised when she turned around and kissed him on the cheek. "Thanks for walking me home, Naruto," she whispered as she walked in her room, leaving Naruto gaping like a fish. Naruto couldn't help but smile when he thought about the 2 months he had spent in the human world. There hadn't been a single hollow sighting in the town since he arrived, But he didn't think this would last as Ichigo began to leak Ryatsu. Ichigo was one of his best friends now, and Naruto couldn't help but admire his loyalty to his friends. Ichigo fiercely fought for any one of his friends and often got in fistfights with Chad when bullies would pick on others. The two got along quite well despite Naruto getting on Ichigo's nerves with a few harmless pranks. Despite all of that, Ichigo still usually had a scowl on his face. Then there was Chad, who struck Naruto as being a gentle giant. The guy was seriously one of the most intimidating guys in the world and was massive, but the guy literally had a heart of gold. When Naruto heard the story of how Ichigo and Chad became friends, and Naruto's respect for Chad literally jumped. Orihime was different from all of the rest as Naruto lived right beside her. The two quickly grew close, and pretty soon Naruto saw Orihime as a little sister, and she saw him as a big brother. Naruto could also tell that she had a crush on Ichigo, but Naruto could tell that Ichigo would probably never feel the same way about her. Then there was Kigo and Mizuiro, and what a pair they were. Kigo was obnoxious and loved to get on Ichigo's nerves even more than what Naruto did. Although Naruto did like the guy, as the two of them often teamed up to annoy Ichigo. Why a 6,000-year-old being as strong as Naruto liked to prank people is yet to be known. Mizuiro was much quieter than Kigo and also was quite sarcastic, and usually made Kigo mad. Last was Naruto's first, and probably best friend since he came to the human world, was Tatsuki. After their spar, Tatsuki asked him if he could help her train after school at the dojo, and Naruto agreed. She was quite surprised to learn that he had mastered about 5 different fighting styles, but preferred the one he created himself. Over the past 2 months they had grown quite close, even though Naruto didn't want to get close to her, as he felt that she was likely to get hurt when war finally came to him. However, he couldn't stop the way he felt about her. He hadn't felt these types of feelings in over 6,000 freaking years. If anything did happen between them, he already made up his mind that she would be told everything there was about him. The only bad thing about coming to the school would have to be the sheer receptiveness of going to classes every day of the week. He would wake up, eat ramen, meet Tatsuki and Orihime, go to school, not pay attention but still do amazing, eat lunch and talk, more not paying attention, spar with Tatsuki, hang out with all of his friends, go Uraharas and train, and finally go to sleep. Now he was dodging and blocking blows from Tatsuki and at the same time giving her helpful hints. Come on Tatsuki, remember to stay balanced at all times. Don't aim to hit me, aim to strike me down with absolute resolution, yelled Naruto as Tatsuki's speed and technique improved. After a while the spar ended with a thoroughly exhausted Tatsuki leaning on Naruto for support. How the heck can you still dodge all of my attacks and not even look slightly winded? Have I even gotten a little better in the 2 months that we have known each other? Asked Tatsuki as she looked pretty depressed. Don't talk like that, Tatsuki. You have gotten much better in the past 2 months that we have known each other. I have been learning since I was able to walk, and if I didn't learn quickly then it meant a lot of pain, so don't act like you aren't a good fighter, exclaimed Naruto. Yeah, but still I wish I could at least land a hit on you, she tried to reason. What, you dislike me so much that you rough me up a bit? Asked Naruto teasingly, to which Tatsuki punched him on the shoulder playfully. No, but it would make me feel better about myself. So what are you doing later tonight? Asked Tatsuki. So far I have nothing planned. Why? Asked Naruto. Well, my parents wanted to get to know you since we've been training together for the past 2 months. So I wanted to know if you could come over later tonight for dinner? Asked Tatsuki. Wait. Is Tatsuki the strongest females in all of Japan asking insignificant Naruto Uzumaki out for a date? Asked Naruto with sarcasm before he was hit over the head. I mean, I would love to, Tatsuki. Good, but just to warn you, my father is a bit loopy, if you know what I mean, she said. Can't be any worse than Ichigo's dad, Naruto responded. Haha, well that is true, but my dad is pretty protective of me, so I would be careful if I were you, said Tatsuki. Okay, I will. What time should I meet you at your place? Asked Naruto. Just come by around 6. I will see you then, Naruto, she said as she walked out the doors of the dojo while giving Naruto a wave. Yup, see ya later tonight, Tatsuki, yelled Naruto as he started to make his way home. On the way he was met with the sight of Ichigo yelling at 3 skater punks that had just knocked over a flower vase, and behind him was a young girl. That was obviously a plus. Naruto walked up to Ichigo when the punks ran away with their tails between their legs. Hey Ichigo. That was a nice thing you did for that girl there. Not many people treat spirits with respect, said Naruto, surprising Ichigo. Naruto. What the heck are you doing here, and did you just say that you can see her and other spirits? Yelled Ichigo. Well, hello to you too. But to answer your question, I am going home to get cleaned and dressed to meet Tatsuki tonight, and yes, I did say that I see the spirit of that young girl, answered Naruto. Meeting Tatsuki later? asked Ichigo, clearly confused. Well, her parents wanted to meet me since I've been training her lately. Oh well, I would be careful about her dad. Anyways, how long have you been able to see ghosts? Asked Ichigo. For a really long time now. You should be careful though, Ichigo. I learned a while back that there are monsters that go after people who can see ghosts, and there are these people who wear black kimonos that kill the monsters, said Naruto seriously. Are you serious? Asked Ichigo. 100% serious. One tried to eat me a few years back and a guy wearing a black kimono saved me, said Naruto. Wow, that is pretty weird, said Ichigo. Tell me about it. Well, I have to go get ready tonight, see ya, said Naruto as he started walking to his house again. An hour later, after talking to Naruto about what he suspected Ichigo would soon encounter, Naruto found himself outside Tatsuki's house. Man, I hope her dad isn't as crazy as everyone else says. I don't think I could handle any more crazy adults. Why am I thinking like a teenager? I am about 6,000 years old, thought Naruto as he knocked on the door at the top of a small flight of stairs. Thump, thump, thump. Naruto heard, is someone charging the door or something? Dad, stop, came Tatsuki's voice. What is going on? He thought in confusion. Dynamic entrance. And no way, thought Naruto as the door was suddenly smashed open by a kick coming from a massive man. Naruto flipped back at the last second and landed in a fighting stance at the bottom of the stairs. Oh, so this one knows how to fight, yelled the man in a green karate gi. He was in all honesty a clone of Mato Guy, with the hair and eyebrows. If you want to eat with my family, then you must beat me in a challenge. Okay, by any chance are you related to the Guy clan? Asked Naruto curiously. That is correct, boy. I am Rock Guy, yelled the man. How did you know? Well, I can feel the youthfulness rolling off of you, sir, answered Naruto as Rock Guy started bawling and yelling about the spirit of youth. 6,000 years and his descendants still yell about that, and why isn't Tatsuki's last name Guy? Thought Naruto as he looked at the man on the ground, then glanced at the door to see Tatsuki looking very confused. Well, since you know about my clan, then you also must know about our eternal challenge, he yelled as he suddenly stuck his fist out. Naruto did the same and Tatsuki looked alarmed, thinking that the two were about to fight. Most were usually too creeped out to do anything, and by most she meant her other guy friends. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot, they yelled, and there stood Naruto with paper and Rock Guy with rock. No, I have been defeated. I must now run around Karakura 5 times to make up for my loss, he yelled before he was kicked through his own door by a furious yet confused Tatsuki. I told you not to do that again, yelled Tatsuki. How did you know that he was a guy and that their challenge is also that game? Asked Tatsuki to a snickering Naruto, who stopped when he saw the glare she was giving him. Well, you see, I used to have a mentor that was a guy. So why isn't your last name Guy? He asked. He isn't actually my biological father. He was my mother's friend, and after my real dad died when I was 2, he helped my mom and they married soon after that. He has always acted like my real father, so I treat him as one. Well, now that he doesn't have any problems with you, we can go in and eat, she said as she walked through the door. Overall, Naruto had to admit the night was nice. Tatsuki's mom instantly fell in love with Naruto as he treated Tatsuki and them with respect as if they were nobles. Being 6,000 years old does tend to teach someone a lot of things. When he was leaving, Tatsuki surprised him greatly with another kiss on the cheek, which once again left him speechless. She hadn't done anything similar to the time he brought her home from their first spar. After he regained his thoughts, he left for his home, but felt something was off, as if something big was about to happen soon. Whatever. The next day was a Saturday, which meant he spent it either with his friends or training at Urahara's. Jinta got annoyed at Naruto for mooching, as they called it, so he decided to start writing some books on his free time about his life as a shinobi. It was during one of his hours working in the shop that he spied a small black-haired Shinigami walk in and start talking to Urahara about some things. He made sure to stay out of sight as he didn't want Soul Society to know about him yet. He learned that despite how well he did control his Ryatsu, some still leaked out, and Soul Society could just detect a very weak hollow in Karakura constantly, so she was sent to investigate. They think that I am just some weak low-level hollow. I'm not even a hollow anymore. I can't till they find out what I really am, thought Naruto. I would be careful about this hollow that you are tracking. It may seem weak, but I haven't been able to track it, and it seems that most hollows are afraid of it. Not to mention it hasn't gone after a single soul in the past 2 months, said Urahara. It is a hollow. I shouldn't have any problems taking it out. We'll see about that, Shinigami. Well, I'd better get going, as she stopped when she felt her phone ring signaling that a hollow had just appeared. It is a different hollow, but I'd better stop it. I will see you later for a jigai. she said as she ran out of the building. Looks like the hollows are getting bolder. There must be a fairly powerful hollow sending them if they have the balls to come here, said Naruto as he walked up. True, it must be sensing the large amounts of spiritual energy coming from Ichigo. Not to mention his friends, despite your experience you simply have too much Ryatsu to control perfectly. Ichigo, the tall one, the orange-haired girl, and that girl Tatsuki, was it? Well, they are all developing spiritual powers slowly, but surely. I bet they can all see spirits now, said Urahara. Yeah, I have noticed them staring strangely at spirits trying to figure out what they are. Looks like that Shinigami just killed the hollow and in front of dear Ichigo. That will raise a few questions tomorrow at lunch. Well, I worked enough for today, I'm going to go home and listen to some music. I just love the music the world has come up with, everything but rap and pop, said Naruto as he walked out the door and pulled out an iPod and started to listen to music. In my stories all languages are English, no offense, but I wish that the entire world had an universal language. It doesn't even have to be English. Ichigo was seriously freaked out today. He talked to his newest friend Naruto about seeing spirits, something he thought that only his family and him could do. Then Naruto told him about monsters and people wearing black kimonos that only people who could see spirits could see. Then he ran into one of those monsters and sure enough a petite girl looking around his age killed the monster without any effort. Damn Naruto, he just couldn't have been joking for once, yelled Ichigo. Whatever, it's not like I will ever see something like that again. He sighed out, but he talked too soon as he felt a breeze hit him in his room and he turned to see the same person in a black kimono standing on his window. What the hell are you doing here? He yelled as he jumped up off his bed, but the girl either didn't hear him or was ignoring him. Strange, I can't seem to sense any hollow presence. I was sure that it was close by, she started, but was interrupted as she was kicked to the ground by an angry Ichigo. Who the hell do you think you are barging into my room? Yelled Ichigo as the black-haired Shinigami looked at him in surprise. How did you kick me and how can you see me? It shouldn't be possible for a human to see me, she muttered. Hello, are you even listening to me? Asked Ichigo. Of course I am listening to you, but it shouldn't be possible for you to be able to see me. Just how can you see me? Asked the girl. How should I know, and maybe you could explain why you are in my room? Asked Ichigo. Thus started a very lengthy and artful explanation by Rukia about hollows and Shinigami. Okay Shinigami, let's say that I believe you, but why are you in my house? Asked Ichigo. I sensed the hollow close to your house and was pursuing it, but when I got here I lost it, she said, but suddenly the door opened up and Yuzu was there barely standing. It's Ichigo, car Karen's in TTR trouble, she said weakly and collapsed right on the floor. Damn it, Karen! Yelled Ichigo as he made for the door, but was suddenly restrained by an invisible force. Stay here, you stand no chance against a hollow. I will go save your sister, said the Shinigami as she ran out the door and down the stairs. But Ichigo got to his feet and followed her down the stairs. Karen! Yelled Ichigo as he landed by the Shinigami. Said Shinigami could see Ichigo's body tensing up and it was clear he was trying to break from the spell. Stop trying to get out of that spell. It could damage your soul if you try to break out, shouted the Shinigami, but Ichigo didn't listen. Suddenly she started to feel Ryatsu start to leak from the human. A small blue wispy cloud formed around him and suddenly he shattered the yellow-colored spell to her amazement. This amazement soon turned to horror as the human charged the hollow and was smacked to the side hard. Forgetting about the girl in its arms, the large hollow charged Ichigo with its mouth wide open. Just before the hollow reached him, Ichigo closed his eyes, but soon found the Shinigami standing in front of him with some of her blood splattered on him. Why? Asked Ichigo to the struggling Shinigami. It is the duty of every Shinigami to protect the souls of others, she said as she flung the hollow back with the last of her energy. I don't have the energy to beat it now, she said as she leaned against the wall. What are we going to do then? Asked Ichigo quickly as the hollow stood up. Take my sword, I am going to give you some of my power, she said as Ichigo grabbed her sword. What do I do with it? He asked confused. You have to stab yourself in the heart to gain some of my power, she said. What? Yelled Ichigo as the hollow began to charge. Hurry, you don't have much time, she shouted. Fine then, Shinigami, he said as he positioned the sword at his heart. My name isn't Shinigami, it's Rukia Kachiki, she said. Ichigo Kurosaki, said Ichigo as he stabbed himself just before the hollow reached him. An explosion of white energy came from where Ichigo used to stand. Suddenly the hollow howled in pain as its arm flew off and blood flew everywhere. Ichigo was behind the hollow wearing a black kimono with a massive sword held in a two-handed grip. I didn't mean to give him that much power, thought Rukia as she watched Ichigo in awe. Meanwhile, some background music was playing, making the scene seem pretty epic. Where is that music coming from? Asked Ichigo in wonder, but then his eyes popped out of his head as he saw a teen walk across the street without even looking. He was carrying a massive jukebox, and had blonde spiky hair. I love this epic music! Yelled Naruto in triumph as he turned the corner and disappeared from view. Meanwhile, everyone else, including the hollow, had huge sweat drops forming on their faces. Forgetting that issue, Ichigo turned around and cut straight through the hollow's mask, ending the fight. So you gave this boy your powers so that he could save his family, Ms. Kichiki? Asked Urahara as he waved his fan in his face. I had to do something. I'm going to need a Jigai so that I can regain my powers, before Soul Society finds out, said Rukia. Don't worry, I have your Jigai ready now, said Urahara as he walked back and grabbed Rukia's Jigai. Rukia quickly left for what would become her new home, in the Kurosaki house. So it begins, muttered Urahara as he went back to bed for the night. The next morning Ichigo was extremely confused. None of his family remembered the event that happened last night, and they believed that a truck drove through their home. He couldn't even remember anything after he killed the hollow. So he shrugged it off and went to school, hoping that last night's event was a one-time thing. He quickly ran into Naruto, who was once again walking to school with Tatsuki and Orihime. Hey Ichigo, sorry about what happened at your house last night. If I would have known then I would have checked up on you guys, said Naruto. What happened at Ichigo's house last night? Asked Tatsuki. Newspapers said that a truck drove through the wall and left. Someone could have gotten hurt pretty badly, said Naruto. Or maybe it was some type of battle between a monster and an ancient satellite? Exclaimed Orihime, as Ichigo looked at her in surprise and Naruto looked at her questioningly. There she goes again, predicting the same thing that actually happened, thought Naruto. Did she just guess that, or does she know, thought Ichigo, but he quickly dismissed it and chalked it up as nothing more than a guess. They all proceeded into homeroom and took their seats, with Naruto being behind Ichigo and between Tatsuki on his left and Orihime on his right. Class, today we are having a new student join us today. I would like to introduce you to Rukia Kichiki. As the new girl walked in, Naruto smirked, Ichigo's mouth dropped, and Kigo got hearts in his eyes. Hi, my name is Rukia and I can't wait to get to know you, she said in a pleasant voice that Naruto and Ichigo could tell was fake. I have to go to the office for a few minutes, don't destroy the room while I'm gone. Rukia, you can go over and sit by Ichigo, he is the one with orange hair and a scowl permanently on his face, she said as she left. She slowly walked over to Ichigo, while he looked at her in horror. Hello, you must be Ichigo. It sure is a pleasure to meet you, she said as she shook his hands. Unnoticed by everyone, but Naruto, she gave him a note which caused Ichigo to pale slightly. Class was quite normal besides Ichigo looking awkwardly at Rukia, while Naruto snickered behind him. Soon it was time for lunch and Naruto disappeared before anyone knew what happened. Rukia dragged Ichigo to the school roof to explain what she was doing here in the first place. When they got there, Ichigo proceeded to ask Rukia what she was doing and Rukia was about to answer before they were interrupted. So that is why you kept looking at her, Ichigo, came a voice from the other side of the roof. They looked over and saw Naruto leaning against one of the walls with a sly smile. What are you doing up here, Naruto? Shouted Ichigo. I could ask you the same thing. Gonna make out with a new student, Ichigo? Asked Naruto with a fox-like smile. This comment caused both Rukia and Ichigo to blush. Shut up, Naruto. Rukia just wanted to talk to me about a few things, shouted Ichigo as tried to will the blush away. Sure, that's what she wanted. Well, I'll let the two of you get back to whatever you were going to do. I'll go eat lunch with Tatsuki, and Ichigo, don't forget to be safe, said Naruto as he walked through the door on the roof. Who is that and why does he seem so strange? Asked Rukia. That's Naruto, he moved here 2 months ago. He is a nice guy, but likes to prank a lot of people, and he is mostly mystery, he just pops up at random times, said Ichigo. So with that, the next few weeks went by in a blur. Ichigo's powers grew quickly with Rukia's guidance, while Naruto watched from the sidelines. He would only help if the other was in mortal danger. The only time he broke his own rule of helping from the sidelines was when Orihime's real brother became a hollow and tried to kill Orihime and Tatsuki. Man, he was pissed when the thing was about to swallow Tatsuki. He jumped from the doorway in his human form and sent it flying out the wall, right in front of Ichigo, who had just arrived. Rukia felt the presence of a second hollow that night, but never found it. After that night, Naruto became much more protective of his friends, and his friendship with Tatsuki grew even more as he spent most of his free time with her, and most of their friends joked about them being lovers. This usually resulted in a few broken noses and some unfortunate pranks being performed. Deny it all he wanted. Naruto knew that he was attracted to Tatsuki, and this scared him as he had never felt feelings like this in over 6,000 years. If he wanted to continue being friends with her, then he would have to tell her everything about himself. She was even starting to be able to sense Ryatsu, and would often comment on feeling warm energy surrounding her when she was in Naruto's presence. It wouldn't take too much for her to develop spiritual powers. A life and death situation would definitely do that to her. Naruto even promised himself that if that ever happened, he would explain everything to her and train her to defend herself in the future. Especially since he knew his Ryatsu spiked when it was around her most of the time, Soul Society would send some more people to investigate. Probably when they came to retrieve Rukia. Naruto quickly became Rukia's friends despite his jabs at Ichigo and hers relationship. He could tell that they were perfect for each other. No one else could motivate Ichigo like she did, and no one was stubborn enough to provoke Rukia like Ichigo was. Whenever commented on how they would make a cute couple, they immediately blushed and tried to deny it. Too bad they were both just too stubborn for their own good, otherwise he was sure that the two would be the perfect couple. It had been a month and a half since Rukia arrived in Karakura and Ichigo became a Shinigami, when Naruto was approached by Tatsuki with a request right after school. "Naruto, could I ask you something?" asked Tatsuki, who looked extremely nervous. "Sure, Tatsuki, what do you want to know?" he asked with concern as he wasn't used to her being nervous. "Well, since we finished our final this year, and the last week of school isn't important, I wanted to know if you would come with my family and I to the National Women's Mixed Martial Arts Tournament as my coach?" she asked hopefully. Naruto was floored. He hadn't expected something like that to be asked, but it did sound fun. "Sure, as long as your parents don't have any problems with me coming along." "When will we be leaving then?" responded Naruto with a smile. "Great, we will be leaving in 2 days for the tournament. It is in northern Japan," she said. "Well, it's a good thing that I've earned some money lately so we can go sightseeing when you don't have to fight," said Naruto, which confused Tatsuki. "How did you earn that money, Naruto?" asked Tatsuki. "Oh well, you see, the guy who bought my apartment gave me a job at his shop. I only work there a little, but the pay is good. Well, I have to go actually, Tatsuki, thanks for inviting me," said Naruto as he walked away after she gave him a hug and thanks. The day they left finally came and Naruto couldn't help but mostly hate the ride up. The entire ride rock guy was yelling about youth and how Naruto was such a nice guy by coming up with him. Tatsuki's mom was practically an older version of Tatsuki, but wasn't as tomboyish. She was extremely nice and warmed up to Naruto immediately. Most of the drive was passed by the two discussing Tatsuki's techniques and some minor things like Ichigo and Rukia's relationship, which got laughs out of both. They were about 2 hours away from the place when all but Guy and Naruto were sleeping. It was during this time that Naruto believed would be good to write a few notes for his story about his life before he died. He was almost done with the first story, which led up to his failed retrieval of his best friend. Tatsuki woke up to see Naruto writing some things on an empty piece of parchment, and wondered what it was for. "Naruto, what are you doing?" she asked as Naruto looked at her in surprise. "Oh well, when I moved here I decided to try and write a fantasy story, and well, I'm almost done with it. I only have 1 chapter left before I am done," replied Naruto. "You're writing a fantasy novel?" asked Tatsuki. "Yeah, I am. If you want, you can read the first 3 chapters. I have them with me at the moment," he said as he pulled out a bunch of papers from one of his bags. "Sure, I hope you're as good at writing as you are at fighting," she said jokingly. "If I'm only half as good at writing as I am at fighting, then that will be a bestseller," he joked back, as Tatsuki began to read the first chapter as Naruto continued to write. An hour later, Tatsuki was thoroughly impressed by the book. "How did you come up with the character and the idea for the book?" she asked in awe as Naruto looked sheepish. "Well, remember when Oriheim asked me about my birthmarks? Well, the boy getting sealed with a demon really struck me as a good idea. Then the rest came from people I've met and legends that were told to me," he said. "I like how you added my dad as a character in the book," she whispered. "Well, the guys are an extremely old family, and I thought that it would be appropriate to put someone like him in it," Naruto said quickly, hoping she didn't realize that he wrote the chapter before he met her dad. "So when will you publish it, Mr. Author?" she asked teasingly. "Well, the guy who bought my apartment said he would try to publish the book. So sometime over the summer it will be published," he responded. They soon arrived at the busy town and found their rooms at one of the hotels. Naruto got his own while Tatsuki and her family got one to themselves. That night was spent relaxing as the next morning would be the start of the 3-day tournament. The first round of the tournament for Tatsuki was just too easy for her. Wearing a white and azure gi with the kanji for fox on her back, to show that she was trained by Naruto, she knocked her opponent out in just 2 weak punches. Coming off the mat, she was hugged by Naruto, while he whispered into her ear, "Told you that your punches hurt." The next round proceeded in the same fashion as she quickly knocked the other girl out using the style she invented while practicing with Naruto. It utilized fast, powerful strikes and flexibility to decimate your opponent's defenses. That night was again a night of relaxation as the next day was the matches that led up to the finals. She destroyed her first opponent again, while becoming frustrated that no one could give her a good fight. In the semis her opponent was much tougher, but nowhere near Naruto's level. They both were in a dance of fists and kicks trying to break through the other's guard. Each blow was powerful and would leave most on the ground with broken bones. Tatsuki pivoted right and sent a kick towards her opponent's head, but it was caught at the last second. Quickly spinning in air, she brought her other foot around and nailed the other girl in the ribs, breaking a few in the process. Seeing she had the advantage, she jumped up and started pushing the other girl back to the edge of the mat. With a ferocious yell, she launched a haymaker at the other girl and knocked her right out of the ring. Tatsuki jumped off the ring and immediately hugged Naruto in giant hug while screaming that she was in the finals. Naruto hugged her back and felt great considering that his pupil and best friend, maybe even more than that, was in the finals of the national tournament. In that moment he decided that no matter what happened tomorrow he would tell her all of his secrets. The finals in the tournament came quickly and soon Tatsuki and Naruto found themselves in a massive arena with a ring in the center for the fight. On the other side was a massive girl that had tan skin and looked quite mannish. She had a tribal tattoo on her faces. Scary Movie 4, when they have the boxing scene. Least favorite scary movie, but it fits the bill. Is she on beaver tranks or something? Asked Naruto in bewilderment as he eyed the girl, causing Tatsuki to snort in laughter. Probably not, Naruto, but got any tips on how to fight her? She asked hopefully. Never give up and remember everything I've taught you, and there is no way she will be able to beat you. Remember, though, win or loss, I'm proud of you, Tatsuki, he said, which caused her to smile and blush at him. Thanks, Naruto, she said shyly. Don't thank me yet, go in there and kick her in the balls, he said, causing her to giggle and get in the ring with the other girl. Soon the fight started and both girls were pounding on each other. Tatsuki was dodging all of her opponent's attacks and countering with her own when she was open. Seeing the size of her opponent, she knew that she had slow but powerful attacks that would be able to devastate her small frame. During the fight, Naruto sensed hundreds of hollows appear in Karakura. Ichigo and another presence he recognized as Yuryu were killing hollows left and right. I knew that kid had spiritual energy. Then he felt the presence of the Minos Grande Jillian class, which caused him to frown. Ichigo would have trouble fighting one of those at his current level, but he would have to trust him enough. The problem was that Tatsuki saw Naruto frown in the corner of her eye, and misread it as something she was doing wrong. With that, all of her fighting will was sucked out of her, resulting in her getting hit hard a couple of times and getting sent to the edge of the ring. Naruto saw her lose the will to fight and became worried about the girl he cared deeply for. This wasn't the Tatsuki he knew what happened to her will. Come on, Tatsuki, don't give up. I believe in you and I know you can be her, he yelled. Hearing Naruto's words spurred her into action, just before the other girl kicked her out of the ring. Rolling to the side, she tripped the other and planted both of her arms on the ground and launched her feet up, catching the girl and mule kick to her jaw. Thank you, Naruto, I knew you believed in me, she thought as she charged the recovering girl. Tatsuki triumphed in the end and launched herself at Naruto and hugged him for all it was worth as he laughed happily. Breaking apart for 1 second, Tatsuki did the most bold thing he could ever think of and kissed him right on the lips. Naruto stood there shocked for a second, but soon that shock was replaced by pleasure as he kissed her back. Yes, tonight I will tell her everything about myself. If she still accepts me, then I will tell her my feelings, he thought as she pulled away. We have to talk tonight, Tatsuki. I have to tell you some things that you need to know about me, said Naruto seriously. Okay, I hope it isn't too bad, she responded with a smile. It all depends on your opinion, Tatsuki, he said as he finally noticed everyone in the stadium staring at him. Maybe we should go find somewhere more quiet? He asked as Tatsuki nodded as she realized their predicament. A few hours later, as it started to turn dark over the village they were at, Naruto and Tatsuki took a walk through one of the town's old fields. Boulders and ruins covered the fields, giving off a romantic backdrop as the setting sun hit the field. So Naruto, what is it that you have to tell me? She asked in annoyance as Naruto would simply not do anything until he told her. Tatsuki, what I'm about to tell you cannot ever leave this area. It will affect the way you look at me for the rest of your life. Whether it is a good thing or a bad thing completely rests upon you," said Naruto seriously, as Tatsuki looked at him confused. "What is it, Naruto?" she asked kindly. "Do you know that book I'm writing?" he asked, which got him a confused nod from Tatsuki. "That book isn't a fictional story, it is based off the life of me, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, ninja of the village hidden in the leaves," he said as Tatsuki looked at him in disbelief. "What? How can that even be possible?" she asked in surprise. "It's possible because I have been dead for over 6,000 years now," he said, which caused Tatsuki to gasp. 6,000 years ago my village and everyone in it was destroyed, including me. When I died I didn't go to heaven, but to a place known as Hyukomundo, and there I became the first ever Vasto Lord," he said. For the next hour Naruto told her everything he knew about hollows, Shinigami, Vizards, and Arankars. During that time he felt 3 powerful beings enter the world of the living, and with them was a 4th weaker power. 2 of the powerful Ryatsus started to rapidly approach their position as he finished his story. "So now that you know what I am, what I have done, what do you truly think about me, Tatsuki?" asked Naruto in the most serious voice he could muster. Tatsuki was confused about a number of things. She wasn't confused on what Naruto had just told her, as he explained everything perfectly, but she was confused about the part that Naruto was half hollow and half Shinigami, and that he was about 6,000 years old. Finally it clicked in her head and she turned in his direction and met his azure-colored eyes. "I don't care what you are, Naruto, you are you, and that is what I love," she said, admitting that she loved him in the process. Naruto smiled at her warmly and replied, "And I love you too, Tatsuki." They both leaned in and met in a passionate kiss that sent electricity throughout both of their bodies. It was during this embrace that the 2 captain-class Shinigami landed in the field, and looked around as if looking for something. "Who are they?" Tatsuki asked as she broke the kiss. "We have a problem, Tatsuki, they are Shinigami and are most likely here to kill me. Don't look at them after we start fighting, I want you to run and hide. They are very powerful, but I should be able to defeat them, can't kill them since I will need their help," he said. Tatsuki looked like she was about to protest before she nodded and looked away as Naruto stood up and looked at the strange men. One was a massive man standing around 6'9", and the other was much shorter. The taller man had an eye patch and bells hanging from the tips of his black spiky hair. The shorter one looked extremely serious and had white-colored hair. "So what do you fine gentlemen want this evening?" Naruto asked kindly, surprising the 2 Shinigami. "How can you see us?" asked the shorter one. "Well, I can see you because I believe that you are here to kill me, Shinigami," said Naruto as he took out a pill and swallowed it, ejecting his soul from his body. His body picked itself up, ran to cover quickly. Naruto still had his blonde hair, but was now wearing a white hakama with azure trimming, and at his side was a katana. He looked up and stared at the Shinigami, causing them to gasp in surprise, for his once azure eyes were gone and replaced with the eyes of a hollow. "You're the hollow we were sent to kill? What are you? You are not like any hollow we have ever seen before," asked the shorter Shinigami. "Yes, I am. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I am the first Vasto Lord and the forsaken god of Hyukomundo. You do not stand a chance against me, Shinigami," yelled Naruto as he pulled his sword from his sheath. "That's impossible. The first Vasto Lord disappeared about 4,000 years ago after the Hollow Shinigami Wars," shouted the shorter captain with the white hair. "Well, I did disappear, but I wasn't killed by anyone back then. It would take about 10 Vasto Lord to even push me to my max nowadays, so why don't you go back to Soul Society and tell them all about me being back?" offered Naruto with a wave of his hand. "I don't care what he claims to be, I just want to fight him," yelled the larger Shinigami as manic grin rose onto his scarred face. "Calm down, Captain Zaraki, we are here to kill him. But let's find out if he is telling the truth before then," said the shorter captain as Naruto looked at the 2 of them in confusion. "Could someone tell me why the big guy is taking orders from the preteen?" asked Naruto loud enough just for the captains to hear him. "I'm Captain Hitsugaya of the 10th Squad. I am not a preteen hollow," said Short Captain. "When you live to be 1,000 years old, then I might consider to stop calling you a preteen. Anyways, why are there 2 more Shinigami in Karakura town right now?" asked Naruto. "Enough talk, I just want to fight," yelled the larger man as he charged at Naruto with his sword drawn. Tatsuki watched in horror as the large man appeared right beside Naruto in what seemed like a split second. She watched as the man swung his sword down right at Naruto, but what she didn't expect was for Naruto to catch the worn-looking blade in his hand. "You are too slow, Shinigami," said Naruto, as he kneed Zaraki in the ribs, spin kicked him back to where Hitsugaya stood. Besides, the only way for you two to cut me would to be in your shuriken, said Naruto. He caught my blade with his bare hand. Haha, I am going to enjoy this fight, roared Zaraki as he ripped off his eye patch, causing a massive amount of Ryatsu to cover the area. Tatsuki felt herself being crushed by an oppressive feeling. Her lungs were struggling to get air into her body, but it was all for naught as she began to fade. Suddenly the pressure was released, and she looked up to see Naruto standing over her, and with a faint blue aurora surrounding him. Sorry Tatsuki, that guy has a lot of Ryatsu, but doesn't know how to control it well. I'll leave a few clones behind to keep you safe from future circumstances, said Naruto as he made a hand seal, and soon there were 4 Narutos standing around Tatsuki. You 3! Yelled Naruto. Boss! Responded the clones. Protect Tatsuki with your lives, ordered Naruto. Why do we have to protect her with our lives? Whined one of the clones. Because I am the original and I told you so, yelled Naruto. But dying hurts a lot, boss, whined another clone. At least the 3 of you will be back if you died, reasoned Naruto. Oh, I guess that makes sense, agreed one of clones, and soon the 3 were all nodding and forming a defensive triangle around Tatsuki. Meanwhile, all of the other people in the clearing had large sweat drops on their heads and were thinking about how someone could argue with themselves. Now where were we? Oh yeah, this is the part where you two tell me why there are more of you in Karakura. Then you refuse, so I beat it out of you too, said Naruto cheerfully. You won't be able to beat 2 Captain Class Shinigami Hollow, yelled the shorter captain. Wouldn't be the first time, shorty, taunted Naruto. I don't care what you have done, let's just fight, shouted Zaraki as he launched himself at Naruto at full strength. Naruto jumped back away from the sword and watched as the blade formed a large crater. Impressive for one who isn't even in his released form. Why have you not released your Zanpakuto yet? Asked Naruto. I don't need help from my Zanpakuto. Those who rely on others are only weak and aren't fighters. I only need myself to have a good fight, yelled Zaraki as he kept swinging his sword at Naruto, who was just dodging at the moment. He had yet to unsheath his sword. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. The bonds we make with others are what give us the will to fight the ones who threaten those bonds. Only by becoming one with your sword can you ever become a great warrior, argued Naruto, as he dodged another slash and slammed his foot into Zaraki's ribs. Those bonds you make are only signs of a weak person who cannot protect themselves. I live to only fight, and this is the greatest fight I have ever known. There are so few who can even cut me, but you are doing damage without your Zanpakuto, yelled Zaraki as he kept trying to hit Naruto, with no luck. He is beating Zaraki without even using his Zanpakuto. Only the captains and a few lieutenants can cut him in combat, yet this hollow is damaging him without a Zanpakuto. Soul Society is going to want to know about this, thought Hitsugaya as he frowned at the one-sided fight. Fight me at your full power, yelled Zaraki as he tried yet again to decapitate a dodging Naruto. I don't need to do that to beat you, yelled Naruto as he dodged and kicked out one of Zaraki's legs. He then pivoted on his hands and brought the other foot around and kicking Zaraki across the ground. Let me show you a move I developed when I was alive 6,000 years ago, yelled Naruto as he brought his hands together and made 3 clones of himself. They surrounded the now standing Zaraki and got into fighting stances. They all charged from different directions at the prepared captain. So when a clone smashed from the ground underneath Zaraki and plunged its fist into his chin, sending him skyward, he was honestly surprised. The 3 clones and the original all jumped into the air following him. 2 of the clones smashed into him, sending him even higher, but the 3rd clone grabbed the original and threw him high above Zaraki. This is the Naruto Uzumaki Renden, yelled Naruto as he dove down at Zaraki and heel kicked him back to the ground, causing a deep crater in the process. Naruto landed gracefully in front of the other captain and stared him down. Do you want some too? Asked Naruto. I won't underestimate you like Captain Zaraki did Hollow. Set upon the frozen heavens higher Inmaru, yelled Hitsugaya, activating his shuriken in the process. A dragon made of ice flew from the tip of his sword and surrounded the short captain and stared Naruto down. So you have an ice elemental Zanpakuto? It is so similar to mine too. Here, let me show you, said Naruto as he finally drew his blade. Oh, boss is about to bring the pain on that shrimp, yelled a clone close to Tatsuki, causing her to look at him in confusion. Boss's shuriken brings out a whole lot of power that only a few could ever hope to match. The amount of Ryatsu that it releases is beyond what is released by the big brute at the bottom of the crater, explained another clone. Naruto's Zanpakuto began to blow a navy blue as lightning flashed across darkened sky as clouds covered the moon and stars. Blanket the entire sky with your power, Musabori Sidomudorigan, devouring storm dragon, yelled Naruto as his sword was struck by a bolt of lightning and a vortex of wind and lightning surrounded Naruto. The vortex of power subsided, showing Naruto looking the same, but his sword was much different. It was much longer now, almost as long as Naruto himself, and on one side the kanji for dragon was carved into the now white blade. On the other side were the kanji for wind and lightning. The weirdest part was that the blade seemed like wisps of azure traveled along the blade constantly. Then suddenly a wave of Ryatsu crashed into everyone on the field besides Naruto. Hitsugaya was stunned by the amount of Ryatsu that the hollow was sending out. It easily was perhaps one of the strongest he had ever felt in his life, but he only felt it for a split second before it let up. This caused him to think that he had just misjudged the power. You may have an ice Zanpakuto, but I have both wind and lightning on my side in this fight. Take your friend and go, before I decided not to let you go. I really can't afford to stay around too long since my friend is fighting the other captain as we speak, said Naruto. He can sense their battle too then? But he said that he knows who Captain Kachiki is fighting right now. I have to stall him long enough for Captain Kachiki to complete his mission at least, thought Hitsugaya. I have to commend you, Hollow, for beating Captain Zaraki, but him and I are both only at 20% of our full powers in these forms. I don't think you would be too cocky if you fought us at full power, stated Hitsugaya with confidence. Oh, don't worry, Shorty, I know all about your inhibitor. That is the reason why I have only been fighting at 20% of my full power at these forms, stated Naruto to Hitsugaya's shock and awe. Either way, I cannot let you pass, said Hitsugaya. Then I will have to make you pass then. Why don't you just tell me what you are doing in Karakura and I will not kill you, said Naruto. We are in Karakura to retrieve a rogue Shinigami that we have concluded has given her powers to a human. The Central 46 wants her brought in for questioning. It doesn't even matter to you, Hollow, said Hitsugaya. That is where you are wrong, Shinigami. Both of those people are my friends, and if they are hurt then I will come after Soul Society and take my vengeance upon it. If Rukia Kuchiki is taken then I will come for her, and if Ichigo or her are killed then I will kill the one who hurt them, said Naruto seriously. How do you know Rukia Kuchiki? Asked Hitsugaya. She is a friend I met while I was living in the human world. No one knew what I was until you came here, Shinigami, and now I will make you and your allies leave, yelled Naruto as he charged at Hitsugaya. Both blades clashed in a power for dominance at the center of a massive crater. Hitsugaya was struggling to hold back the Zanpakuto of Naruto. Finally, he pushed as much power as he could into his sword and pushed Naruto back. Naruto jumped into the air and landed some 15 meters away. Is that all a Shirkai of a captain has? If that is all, then the all realms of existence are done for. Cards have already been set into motion and Soul Society has turned a blind eye away from the growing darkness. You must train harder if you want to survive the coming war with Hyuko Mundo, said Naruto. What are you talking about, Hollow? Are the rest of your kind going to rally and invade Soul Society behind your banner? Hyuko Mundo has not been united for 4,000 years and it will remain that way even if you claim to be the former god of Hyuko Mundo, stated the captain. No, it isn't me that you should be worrying about. There is another just as powerful as me in your own ranks and pretty soon he will have an army capable of destroying all of existence. I alone cannot stop him and his ever-growing army. Now show me if the Shinigami are not completely useless like I believe, stated Naruto as he charged at Hitsugaya. Naruto pushed back the younger inexperienced captain with ease. Each slash was powerful and purposeful without a single wasted movement between attacks and Hitsugaya was doing his hardest not to be skewered by the Zanpakuto. He wasn't as good as Zaraki, but he was much quicker and able to stay away from each of Naruto's attack. He jumped back and launched a dragon of ice right at Naruto, who just stood there waiting for the attack to hit. He lifted his arm and took the dragon straight to the palm of the hand and didn't waver an inch. It was at this moment that they felt a massive spike of Ryatsu coming from Karakura town, one that signals the release of Shirkai for the first time. Well, it seems that Ichigo was able to release his Shirkai quite early. Won't that make things interesting? Asked Naruto to the small captain. There is no way a new Shinigami could ever release Shirkai that early. Even then he is no match for Captain Kachiki, stated Hitsugaya. Doesn't matter, now he is strong enough to at least survive long enough, said Naruto as he struck again, but Hitsugaya jumped high into the air and launched another dragon at Naruto. The same move? Asked Naruto as he waved his sword and a massive dragon flew from the tip. Its body seemed to be like a twister spinning with lightning bolts keeping the shape together. Naruto pointed his sword right at the approaching ice dragon, and his flew straight at the dragon. Both dragons collided in midair, but Naruto's plowed straight through the one made of ice. It continued on to the surprised captain and hit him straight on. The dragon carried him straight into the ground and exploded with a burst of energy. Naruto walked over to the battered form of the smaller captain and picked him up by the collar and looked him in the eyes. I am going to let you and your fellow captains go, but when you see all of the others tell them that I don't let my friends down, and that Rukia Kuchiki will be rescued within the month. Make sure to tell them that I am the forsaken god of Hyuko Mundo, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze," said Naruto as he walked over to the other captain and lifted him up on his shoulder. "Well, see ya again, shorty," said Naruto as he opened a gate to Soul Society and threw the two captains right in and slammed the door. "Boss, we have a problem with Tatsuki," yelled one of the clones. Naruto quickly used Sonito to appear next to a sweating Tatsuki as electricity warped around her body. Damn, I knew she would manifest powers eventually, but with all the high Ryatsu tonight she must have absorbed too much for her body to handle. "One of you henge into her and play the part I'm taking her to Urahara's," said Naruto as he took her hand and started whispered into her ear to hang on. He picked up her body and took off into the direction of Karakura town using Sonito. Along the way he felt Ichigo's Ryatsu fade and Rukia's disappear. He would meet Urahara at his shop soon anyway, so it didn't matter. At the moment only Tatsuki mattered. "Damn it, Ichigo, just go and run. This isn't your problem, it is mine," shouted Rukia from behind her older brother Byakuya and her oldest friend Rinji. "Don't you understand, Rukia? I could never just let them take you. You did nothing but save my life and my family's. If all they are going to take you away just because you did that, then I will fight for you," shouted Ichigo in response. "It is because of you that we have to take Rukia to be sentenced by the Central 46, shouted Rinji in anger, as he believed that it was all Ichigo's fault. "It doesn't matter what you believe, Rukia is guilty of the crime, and she will serve her punishment. Abarai, take care of this human so we can be on our way," ordered the captain known as Byakuya. "With pleasure, sir. You are going to pay for stealing Rukia's powers, human," yelled the red-headed lieutenant known as Rinji. "Rinji, please stop this," pleaded Rukia from behind her brother. Rinji didn't stop and was on Ichigo quickly, and the two traded blows constantly against each other, but the more experienced lieutenant was quick to get the upper hand in the fight. Ichigo was slashed deeply across his shoulder. "You are pathetic, you can never hope to be a Shinigami," shouted Rinji as leaped at Ichigo and launched him into a wall. "Shut up. You claim to be Rukia's friend, yet you are here to take her away to trial. A friend of mine told me that those who abandon their mission are trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse than trash," shouted Ichigo in defiance as he leaned on his Zanpakuto for support from the bleeding cut on his chest. "Don't lecture me, human. You can't even hold up that sword. How do you expect to beat me and rescue Rukia?" questioned Rinji. This last question hit Ichigo hard as he finally stood up without support and glanced at Rukia and met her stare with one of his own. He could see the sadness in her eyes as they teared up looking at her bleeding friend. "I won't let her down, but I can't even hold up my sword. No, I won't give up now. I have the power to beat him. I have to beat him to save Rukia," screamed Ichigo in his mind as blue Ryatsu surrounded his entire body. Ichigo stood straight with a newfound strength and rose his sword above his head and let the power was over him. He then charged at Rinji, sword ready to strike the lieutenant. Rinji barely followed his movements and brought his sword up at the last second to stop Ichigo from cutting in half, although he was still launched across the alleyway that they were fighting at. "I'm not going to go down without a fight," declared Ichigo as he charged a downed Rinji. Rinji barely rolled out of the way and blocked the massive Zanpakuto from cutting into his chest. How did he just get stronger? It doesn't matter, he shouldn't be able to stand against my Shurikai, thought Rinji as he jumped back to get distance from the stronger Ichigo. "You're lucky, human. Consider it an honor to be graced by my Shurikai." "Roar Zabi!" started Rinji, before a wave of power washed over everyone in the ally. "What is this power?" asked the shocked Rinji. "It is a hollow power, but feels strange, and it exceeds Captain Zarakai's power when it is at its max. It is beyond a Vasto Lord in power and feels weird," stated the cold-faced captain. "Lieutenant Abarai, sheathe your sword. This human doesn't deserve to see the likes of a Shurikai. I will handle this disgrace of a human. We must hurry and get out of here before that power comes for us. The other captains can handle themselves," ordered Byakuya. "Yes, sir, Captain Kuchiki, you are right, sir," agreed Rinji reluctantly. "What are you talking about? What is a Shurikai?" asked the confused Ichigo as he looked at the three Shinigami. "Ha, he doesn't even know the name of his Zanpakuto, and he calls himself a Shinigami," laughed Rinji. "It doesn't matter, you will not live long enough for you to learn the name of your Zanpakuto anyway," said Byakuya as disappeared from sight to the amazement of Ichigo and the horror of Rukia. Ichigo jumped back. She screamed in horror, but it was too late as Ichigo jumped back to receive a deep cut from Byakuya across his chest, shoulder to waist. Should have stayed where you were, human. Now instead of a quick and painless death you will die slowly and painfully. Come, Lieutenant Abarai, and grab the prisoner. We must get back and report to Soul Society, said Captain Kuchiki, as he summoned a gate to Soul Society with the other two following them. Ichigo looked up from the ground and locked his gaze with Rukia's, who had just looked back while walking to the gate. Her eyes were filled with tears, and streaks came from her eyes as she cried for her friend. I can't let her go. I need help, please, just someone help me save her, pleaded Ichigo in his mind before his eyes went blank. He reopened them to find that he was standing on a massive skyscraper that was lying sideways. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and rain fell upon his face. Do you want the power to save her? Questioned a deep voice from behind Ichigo, startling him. He turned around quickly to find a tall man in a very dark red cloak. He was taller than Ichigo, had sunglasses, spiky brown hair, and a rugged face. Do you wish to have the power to save her from them? Questioned the man. Yes, I do. Please help me save Rukia, pleaded Ichigo when he finally regained his bearings. I am the spirit of your Zanpakuto, Ichigo Kurosaki. All that you need to do is call my name, and I will lend you my strength. You are a part of me. If you are ready, you will hear my name, stated the man. How will I know if I am ready? Asked Ichigo. Why do you fight, Ichigo? Questioned the man, seemingly ignoring Ichigo. I fight to protect others so that they never have to go through what my family and I did when my mother died, responded Ichigo with conviction. What will you do with my power? Will you use it for your own selfish desires, or will you use it for the good of others? I will use my powers for the protection of those who cannot protect themselves, answered Ichigo with the same conviction, causing the man to smile slightly. Then go call me forth to fight for those who you protect. My name is Zangetsu, Ichigo Kurosaki, stated Zangetsu, as Ichigo smiled and felt even more power than before surround him. Ichigo opened his eyes and no longer felt pain ripping in his chest, so he stood up slowly. We are not done yet, Shinigami, yelled Ichigo, causing the three to turn and look at him just before the gate. How can he be healed from your attack, sir? Questioned Rinji, but his captain remained silent as he watched Ichigo raise his sword as more blue Ryatsu surrounded his body. Split the heavens, Zangetsu, yelled Ichigo as he swung his sword down at the two captains and prisoner. A massive wave of blue energy flew towards the two captains, but away from Rukia. They both jumped out of the way of the blast that blew apart the gate to Soul Society. We are not done yet, declared Ichigo as he hoisted Zangetsu onto his shoulder. It now resembled a massive meat cleaver, with no guard and bandages covering the handle. He unlocked his shuriken just to save me. Please be safe, Ichigo. I couldn't stand to see you get killed again, she thought in joy and sadness at seeing her friend stand up. So you unleashed your shuriken. It doesn't matter, you will never defeat a noble like me, said Byakuya as he didn't waste time and attacked Ichigo again. However, Ichigo, after learning the name of his Zanpakuto, followed each and every move that Byakuya made and blocked the attack aimed at his back. Not so cocky now that I can track you? Asked Ichigo as he pushed Byakuya back away from him and attacked. However, Byakuya easily blocked his attacks as he was obviously the more skilled warrior. You assume that you are fighting me at my full power? Let me tell you something, human. To avoid influencing your existence, all Captain and Lieutenant class Shinigami all have an inhibitor seal placed on them. This reduces our strength to about 20% our normal levels. Even at 20% of my normal power you are weaker than me, explained Byakuya to the shock of Ichigo. You have to be lying, grunted Ichigo as he tried to push Byakuya back. No, let me show you the power of my blade. Then you will truly know how weak you are, stated Byakuya as he pushed Ichigo back to the end of the ally. No, brother, please. I beg of you, shouted Rukia in horror of what was about to happen. Scatter Senbenzakura, said Byakuya slowly as his blade turned into 1,000 bright pink flower petals and floated away from where they originally were a blade. Is that it? Well, that leaves you wide open, yelled Ichigo as he charged Byakuya. No, Ichigo, run. He will kill you with this, shouted Rukia desperately, but Ichigo ignored her desperate cries. Oh, yelled Ichigo as he neared Byakuya with his sword ready to strike. Fool, muttered Byakuya as he rose his hand and closed his fist. Suddenly Ichigo saw the pink petals of Byakuya's former Zanpakuto surround him, but it was too late. He could do nothing as all of the flower petals shot towards him and cut into his skin. When they cleared, Ichigo was still on his feet, but was covered in his own blood with thousands of cuts covering him. "Is that all you got?" said Ichigo defiantly before he fell to the ground. Rukia looked on in horror at what had just happened to him. "Human should have just run when he had the chance. Good riddance," said Renji, not seeing the look of horror and sadness on Rukia's face. "How dare you! He did nothing run, but protect me from being taken by you too. He would gladly give his life for any one of his friends. He was the only." She started off screaming at Renji with tears streaming down her face, but finished quietly to the point at which Renji couldn't hear at the end. "He stole your powers, Rukia. Can't you see that it is because of him that we have to take you to trial?" shouted Renji in response, but Rukia just ignored him while tears continued down her face. "We are leaving here now, Renji. That hollowish power has defeated 2 captains. We have what we came here for," said Byakuya as he opened the door. Rukia followed the 2 Shinigami to the gate and looked back one last time to see Ichigo reaching out to her with a blood-covered arm. With his last remaining ounce of strength, Ichigo mouthed out one last phrase. "I won't give up." And with that, Ichigo passed into unconsciousness in a puddle of his own blood. Rukia smiled a bit at that and followed the 2 Shinigami into the gate. With the leaving of the Shinigami, Kisuke Urahara finally emerged from the end of the alleyway. "Well, impressive display there, Mr. Kurosaki Naruto, and I will have you ready to fight and defeat him to save your girlfriend," said the ex-captain as he picked Ichigo up and ran back to his shop, where he found Tezai working on an overloading Tatsuki and a worried Naruto with Yorichi waiting to look after the injured Ichigo. "So I'm guessing that her powers are manifesting?" asked Urahara as he gave to Yorichi, who took him to the basement. "Take him to the basement. We have to do that procedure if we want to save his soul," he whispered to her, but Naruto still heard. "Are you actually asking that question?" asked Naruto dangerously. "Good point. I guess having that much Ryatsu thrown around her led to an overload. If she survives the night, then her powers will be pretty strong," stated Urahara, but that did little to calm the forsaken god of Hyuko Mundo. "Well, she should be fine in the morning. She almost didn't make it past the initial outburst, but you got her here just in time. She might wake any time now," said Tezai as he walked up to Naruto and Urahara. "Good, thanks for all the help, Tezai," stated Naruto graciously, to which Tezai nodded in acceptance. "So is the plan to get Soul Society on our side in the coming war on schedule?" asked Urahara curiously. "Yeah, soon all of Soul Society will be in a buzz, and if what you say is correct, then the head captain should remember me, as he was a captain before I sealed myself. Since I didn't kill the 2 captains, then they know that I'm not bloodthirsty. Also, they will learn that I am loyal to my precious people when I help in the rescue of Rukia." "So what procedure are you going to do with Ichigo?" asked Naruto. "His soul is too damaged to heal now. The only way to heal him is to give him an inner hollow. It will save him, but from now on he will have to battle the hollow for control of his soul. I was hoping that you would help him with it," stated Urahara. "Of course I will help you with that," exclaimed Naruto as Yorichi walked into the room. "So did you put him into the chamber?" asked Urahara. "Yeah, I did. He should be awake in the morning. He shouldn't have to worry about his hollow for some time though." "So what are we going to do to lure the traitors out and get Soul Society to help us?" she asked. "Well, Rukia's offense shouldn't be that harsh, and the Godi I-13 is too ignorant right now to investigate this, so I guess that someone needs Rukia," stated Urahara. "So we're just going to use Rukia as bait? Is there something you haven't told me, Urahara? Because I don't like to use my friends as bait," said Naruto. "Look, Naruto, there are some things that I haven't told you, but I couldn't tell you until the plan was into action," started Urahara as he started his story about being banished and the Hogyoku. Then he told him about Aizen and what he did to Rukia's Jugai, which got him punched through the wall, by the way. "So you used my friend to lure this bastard out and expose him to all of Soul Society? This does make it easier to flush out the enemy and to get Soul Society to aid us, but it is risking Rukia's life," stated Naruto worryingly. "Naruto, I know that Ichigo, and you will not fail her. If I am right, then we have a month to rescue her. We will train for 10 days to get stronger," stated Yorichi. "You're right, I will train Tatsuki for the first 5 days, then I will take Ichigo off of your hands, Urahara, as you will train him in endurance and strength during the first 5 days. Yorichi, you will have to train Chad and Oriheim during all 10 days, and later you will train Tatsuki. Then whoever that other power who I felt earlier will need some training, but I haven't a power like that ever before," said Naruto. "He is a Quincy named Yuryu, who has a troubled past that makes him hate Soul Society. He also doesn't like hollows too much either. He will have to train on his own. He already knows, as I ran into him before I found Ichigo," stated Urahara. "What, Yuryu has spiritual powers? I felt something was off about him, but never knew what. Well, it is a good thing that we are actually friends, or it could be really ugly, stated Naruto. So that is everyone that is going to go. Yoruichi will lead us there since I'm sure you haven't been there in a while, stated Urahara as he looked at Naruto. Hee, I guess you are right, things probably have changed since I left Prank the Place, said Naruto as scratched the back of his head. Naruto, Tatsuki is waking up right now. Would you like to be with her when she wakes up? Asked Tensai. Yes, sure, thanks, said Naruto while Urahara snickered. What's so funny, Urahara? Asked Naruto. Nothing, just that the oldest being alive has a thing for a human girl who isn't even 17 yet, snickered Urahara, which caused Yoruichi to start laughing. Man, I didn't think you liked them so young? She asked while laughing. Oh well, you see, unlike you Soul Reapers, my body will always be at this age, and while I am more mature I will always have my flames of youth, said Naruto while quoting some people he knew in the past and present. Yeah, just rub it in our faces, why don't you? Said Urahara mockingly, causing Naruto to grin and walk away to where Tatsuki was resting. He walked in and pulled up a chair to where Tatsuki's bed was currently located and held her hand while she slept. It didn't take long for her to open her eyes and see the beautiful eyes of the immortal that she had just given her heart to that night. I'm glad you're okay, Tatsuki, you had me worried for a moment there on our way back, said Naruto softly. What happened to me? She asked hoarsely. Naruto quickly handed her a water to which she drank quickly. Well, you absorbed too much Ryatsu tonight during my fight. It forced your body to change quickly or you would have exploded in a big display of energy. Thankfully you adapted to it, and thus have gained spiritual powers. This morning I will begin training you to learn and control your powers, said Naruto while gently smiling at her. Okay, Naruto, you said something about the Shinigami coming for Rukia? Is she alright? Asked Tatsuki, to which Naruto frowned a bit. No, she isn't. Rukia was taken by 2 Shinigami after Ichigo engaged them. He fought really well from what I felt, but he wasn't ready for that type of fight. He is healing in a chamber. As we speak he should be awake by the morning, said Naruto sadly. He will probably be devastated when he awakes. It's pretty obvious that he does care for her despite how he acts. So what are we going to do to get her back from Soul Society? Asked Tatsuki with a confident smirk. Easy, we're going to go kick down the front door and kick some ass. We will have 10 days to train for when we go to Soul Society, said Naruto with his own confident smirk. Haha, wait, what about what my parents are thinking right now? She screamed into Naruto's ears. Ah, don't worry about that. I left the 2 clones behind to act like us so they don't worry too much, said Naruto. Good, they won't be acting like we are a couple, will they? She asked, causing Naruto to go pale with the thought. I hope not, since I will get the memories of the 2 kissing if they do, said Naruto with a shudder. And what is wrong with us kissing? Asked Tatsuki, a little annoyed, but she was stopped from pouting by Naruto kissing her on the lips, to which she eagerly responded. They pulled away for a second and smiled at each other. Nothing at all, Tatsuki, but it won't be kissing you. It would be me kissing myself, said Naruto, to which Tatsuki laughed at the thought. So the rest of the night was spent talking about how they were going to train for the next 5 days, Naruto's past, how they were going to get into Soul Society, and last a few kisses here and there. In the Seratai spelling, things weren't as peaceful as they were on Earth, as Godai 13 were in a panic over the defeat of 2 powerful captains. The 2 captains had only suffered injuries that would take only a few days to fully heal, but still they defeated by a single opponent. That is why all the captains of the Godai 13 were in a meeting at the 1st Division headquarters over the matter of their defeat and the capture of Rukia Kichiki. So what you are saying is that Captain Zarakai and you were defeated by a hollow. I knew that you weren't powerful enough to become a captain, stated Mayuri with a scowl on his face. Haha, he would have torn you apart in seconds. I can't wait to fight him again, I haven't had such a strong opponent in so long, laughed Zarakai, making everyone feel uneasy as they all knew the amount of power that the massive man had in him. It scared the hell out of a lot of people to learn that he was defeated by an opponent who hadn't used any weapons. Don't understand the repercussions of what could happen now, Captain. We have to hunt down this hollow before he kills one of us, shouted Soifun. We won't have to worry about him coming for us, and this was no normal hollow, stated Hitsugaya quietly, getting the attention of everyone in the room. What do you mean by that, Captain Hitsugaya? Asked Shunsui in interest of what the young captain had to say. He said that he would be coming to Soul Society himself to rescue his friend. He stated that he was friends with Rukia Kichiki and that he doesn't abandon his friends. I don't know what he was, but he wasn't a normal hollow, he wasn't even an Arankar. He didn't have any remains of his mask and he had a shurikai, but the thing I remember most was the hollow eyes that he had when he left his jigai," stated Hitsugaya quietly. "What? How can any hollow have a shurikai? And we must immediately question Rukia Kachiki for information on this hollow. What other information do you have, Captain?" asked Yukitake in surprise. "Yes, I do. His Zanpakuto is a wind and lightning type, and he claims that he was once a Vasto Lord in Hyuko Mundo. But he also claimed something else. He claimed that he was the forsaken god of Hyuko Mundo, and is over 6,000 years old," stated Hitsugaya, which made the head captain actually look at him in surprise, and the other captains to shout in protest. Aizen himself was smirking inside, now that he knew where his runaway Vasto Lord would be soon. "What was his name?" demanded the head captain, shutting up all the other captains to shut up. "He claimed that his name was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, sir," stated Hitsugaya, to which the head captain looked at him in surprise. "I'm sorry, head captain Yamamoto, but do you know of this hollow?" asked Aizen in interest. "This is something that none of you are to ever speak of again. You all know the hollow Shinigami War that lasted from 1700 to 5000 years ago. Well, what you don't know is that the first Vasto Lord was born during the war, but not a single Shinigami was killed by the Vasto Lord. Eventually the hollows stopped coming, and about 5000 years ago they stopped coming altogether, so we sent squads into Hyuko Mundo to look for upcoming invasions. There they found society amongst the hollows. They all followed the first Vasto Lord and were not allowed to go to either the human world or Soul Society. For 1000 years not a single hollow was found in the human realm. But that all changed when 4000 years ago a powerful hollow showed itself. It was powerful and had the appearance of a nine-tailed fox. It claimed to be Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and the god of Hyuko Mundo. He beat me and the rest of the captains and told us to get stronger, for soon the hollows would be coming again, and then he left and was never seen again. Unless what you say is correct, Captain Hitsugaya," explained the head captain, which left all of the captains deep in thought. Aizen was bewildered by what he had just heard. Was this hollow so powerful that he could control all of Hyuko Mundo by itself, when even himself couldn't control half of the hollows that lived there? He needed to get the hollow on his side or kill it before it could gather more to retake Hyuko Mundo. All the other captains were thinking along the lines of how they could defeat such an opponent, or if they could get a rematch against such a great warrior. "This information can only be told to your lieutenants, but no one else is allowed to hear what I have just spoken. Captains Yutitake and Hitsugaya, I want you to go and interrogate Rukia Kachiki on Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Find out all you can about the hollow," ordered the head captain as all the captains left the meeting slowly. Both Captains Yutitake and Hitsugaya walked into the cell that Rukia was looking out of. Her eyes were still red from crying for the loss of her friend, and one could tell that she had gotten little sleep over the night. But when they entered, she turned and looked at the two captains. "Sir?" she questioned as she looked at him sadly. "Rukia, we have not received word on your fate yet, but we didn't come here for that. We have some questions that we have to ask you on a certain individual," said the white-haired captain. "It doesn't matter what you asked me. My brother already killed Ichigo. Now I've caused the death of two people that I cared about," she screamed, causing the captain to wince as he knew all about how Rukia blamed herself for the death of her mentor Kaien. "No, we are not here to talk about the human. We are here to ask you what you know on the one known as Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze," said the shorter captain. "What do you mean? What would you want with Naruto?" she questioned shakily. "What do you know about him?" he asked again, but a bit harsher. "Just that he is my friend and that he would never allow any of his friends to get hurt. He also is a joker and an extremely kind guy. What does anything have to do about him?" she questioned. "So you don't know what he is?" asked Yutitake this time. "No, what are you talking about?" "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is a hollow that fought both Captain Zarakai and me and won. He claims that he will be coming to rescue you soon since you are one of his precious people," stated Hitsugaya, shocking the petite Shinigami inside the shell. "But hollows are supposed to be mindless beasts, but no one loves life more than Naruto," she said to herself, but the two captains still heard her. "He is no normal hollow. If there is nothing else you have to say, then we will have to go now," said Yutitake as the two captains left the cell to let Rukia have time to think. "So what are we doing down here then?" questioned Tatsuki as Naruto stood across from her in Urahara's training ground. "We are down here to learn what type of power you now have. For the next 5 days we will access that power and learn how to use it in combat. I expect you to do your best while we are down here, Tatsuki," warned Naruto. "So how do we learn what type of power I have?" she asked, confused. "You need to meditate and feel a pull come from within. When you feel that pull, you must grasp it and pull it to the surface, then you will change naturally," said Naruto as Tatsuki sat down and began meditating. Naruto felt the power begin to flow from her in waves. She would be able to give some strong Shinigami a run for their money. Probably anything below a lieutenant would be beaten by her if she has this much Ryatsu. Then an orange Ryatsu surrounded her body, and it seemed as if she was at the middle of an orange flame. Tatsuki's appearance began to change with the influence of her chakra, which was similar to Chad's as it was more hollow-based. Her black hair grew longer and more wild, her fingernails began to morph into claws, and the biggest surprise was that a black foxtail shot out of her back. I guess she absorbed more of my Ryatsu than I thought Naruto blankly as Tatsuki opened her now slitted eyes. Just imagine a cubified Naruto in his one-tailed form, but actually having a foxtail, and that it is Tatsuki, of course. Wow, her appearance just turns me on. Wow, I feel powerful, she remarked as she looked at her hands, which resembled claws. Well, Tatsuki, it looks like I will be able to help you more than I thought I would. It seems that you now resemble me when I was a ninja and I drew on the power of the Kyuubi. Judging by your Ryatsu, you have an affinity for fire, said Naruto. Is that a tail? She asked as she looked at her backside to see the black tail. Haha, yeah, I guess it is, but there is nothing wrong with that. Personally, I like them feral. Naruto whispered the last part into her ear, causing her to blush horribly. Naruto, she squeaked in embarrassment. Sorry, I just can't help myself when you look like this. He smiled at her. Whatever, so what are you going to teach me now that you know my power? She asked. Well, since you resemble me as in my hollow release, spelling please, I will train you in the style that I use. Then we will be learning every power that you have in that form. Let's start by channeling Ryatsu into your claws, said Naruto as Tatsuki channeled chakra into her claws. To her surprise, they extended longer and glowed red, meaning that they were hot enough to cause major burns if she was hit. Well, it looks like you will still be mainly melee, but we will have to learn a way for you to block a Zanpakuto easily, said Naruto. So this is what we will do for the next 5 days. What will I do after those 5 days? She asked. Yes, and after you are done with me, you will train with my friend Yorichi in Shippo. Spelling? Which is just a flash step to make you move faster. Now let's get to that training of yours, said Naruto as he started showing the basics of his fox claw stance that he developed 6,000 years ago when he was still alive. In just 5 days, Tatsuki would be much stronger than the normal Shinigami, along with everyone else training. 5 days I've spent fighting Urahara down in this damn cavern under his shop. How he even got this thing down here still amazes me, but at least now I can start the next part of my training. Urahara keeps telling me that he will be teaching me a lot, and that I will be surprised when I meet him. At least I figured out the name of my Zanpakuto, Zangetsu. Now I'm a step closer to rescuing Rukia from the Soul Society. I will not give up, and I will beat anyone who stands in my way of rescuing her. So, Mr. Kurosaki, are you ready for the next stage of your training? Asked Urahara as he fanned himself down. Of course I'm ready for the next stage. What am I going to be learning from this guy anyway, and how strong is he? Asked Ichigo as he hoisted Zangetsu onto his shoulder. I don't know what he is going to teach you, but I can tell you that the training will be extremely beneficial to you in the long run. Just remember though that he has the strength to take on 3 captain-class Shinigami and win, stated Urahara casually. What, he can fight 3 captains at once? Yelled Ichigo as he dropped his sword in shock at that statement. Yeah, he kinda made me look bad that day, but at least he is on our side, stated Urahara. Well, if he wasn't on our side then, whose side would he be on? Questioned Ichigo. You will just have to ask him when you see him. He is way over there by all of the explosions, stated Urahara as he pointed to a point on the other side of the training ground where explosions were popping up randomly. Whoa! I didn't even notice all of the explosions till now. What is happening over there? Asked Ichigo. Oh well, he is teaching your friend Tatsuki how to use her spiritual powers. I must say that she is pretty strong for being just a human, stated Urahara. So Tatsuki is coming too? Asked Ichigo. What is up with all of these questions? Why don't you just go over there and see for yourself and begin the next part of your training? Suggested Urahara as Ichigo just shrugged and dashed off to where all of the explosions were coming from. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. These were 5 words that Tatsuki had become quite familiar with over the past 5 days. Now she repeated this in her head as she fought clones of her boyfriend that were trying to kill her. Every chance she got, she would lash out and kill a clone with one of her claws, but Naruto kept reminding her to not just rely on her claws. By doing this training method over the past 5 days, she had learned a whole lot about her powers. It seemed like she now had a wide arrangement of powers beside her claws, which she could elongate even further by channeling her Ryatsu into her claws, making them glow red. This was needed for her to launch one of her attacks. She called this Jigakatsume, Inferno Claws. The first thing that she learned was that she had iron hard, what do the Arankar call it, skin which was tough enough to block most blades. She used this as a last resort to surprise her opponent, and hopefully land a lethal hit on them. Although she knew that it wouldn't be effective against an opponent much stronger than her. Second, was that she could channel her Ryatsu into her claws and launch 5 red beams of energy that cut her opponents apart. This was a powerful attack, but took a whole lot out of her when she used it, so she could only use the attack about 5 times in a day before she was exhausted. This attack was simply Jigakatsume Ririsu, Inferno Claws Release. Third, she could cast illusions on her opponents that could disorient them enough to get a fatal hit on them. The power also could disrupt some illusions, but she wasn't strong enough to disrupt illusions that were too strong, yet. Anyone know where I'm going with this? Since Naruto could cast some illusions, they used him to test those powers. Last, she learned that she could launch a powerful blast of Ryatsu from her tail, or should I say tails, as she had grown a second tail while training with Naruto. The problem about the blast was that she had to use all of her Ryatsu in the attack, but it was extremely powerful. It had even blasted apart one of Naruto's storm dragons, although it wasn't a full-powered one. About the tail thing, they had learned that it was like an evolution of some sorts. With each tail she gained, her power would multiply, like if she had 5 tails then her power was equal to 5x her 1 tail power. Naruto predicted that since her powers are based off the Kyuubi, then she would probably be able to go up to 9 tails of power. Jigakatsume Ririsu, she yelled as she sent her attack at a massive group of clones that were completely caught off guard by the attack and destroyed. Now she had just a few more of the clones left before she was finally done with her training with Naruto. In the corner of her eye she saw Ichigo appear and Naruto watching her from above one of the cliffs, with a white hood covering his face so Ichigo wouldn't recognize him. She was going to make these last kills impressive, to impress both Ichigo and the man she loves. Jigakatsume, she said as her claws glowed red and lengthened. She charged at the last 3 clones. Now these clones were much stronger than the regular clones that Naruto had made, as he meant for the last 3 to be a lot stronger. She charged the 3 clones and entered a fierce battle with the 3 that worked in complete tandem with each other in the battle. These ones only dispelled from a fatal hit, so when she got a minor hit on the clones they would still be able to attack back unlike other clones. Finally, she was able to behead one clone and pierce another in the heart. The last jumped back and prepared a blast with its Zanpakuto. The blade glowed blue before he launched it at a smirking Tatsuki as she prepared her attack. Jigakatsume Ririsu, she yelled as the blast of energies collided, but Tatsuki's easily overpowered the clones, resulting in her winning. Tatsuki breathed heavily as she finished off the last clone with her attack. But now she was at her limit in terms of strength and needed to rest. But first she would talk to Naruto to get any last words of encouragement from him. Ichigo couldn't believe how strong Tatsuki had gotten in the past 5 days. He could track her movements, but still the improvement was amazing. She could probably fight him now and give him a good fight. Her Jigakatsume Ririsu was similar to his Getsuga Tensho that he had learned with Urahara. Then her fox-like appearance really surprised him as she had 2 black fox tails sticking out of her. She had long claws that seemed to be harder than steel, and she just looked a lot more feral, although he did have to admit that it made her look hotter. However, he would never tell her that for fear of getting his butt kicked by her and a certain blonde friend of hers. He still remembered the day that Kan had taken over his body and kissed Tatsuki during class. He was just walking the hallways as if nothing had happened, as he didn't know Kan had did that. So when Tatsuki attacks him in school it came to him as a surprise. Then after school Naruto decided to play some humiliating pranks on him with the help of Tatsuki. Ichigo would never piss Tatsuki off again in fear of having his hair dyed pink. It was then that he spotted the figure dressed in a white hakama similar to his, but the figures had azure trimmings on his and wore a hood over his head. The edges were looked torn up a bit. Ichigo's Bankai, but with a hood and the changes in color, something about this guy unnerved him. Despite the fact that he sucked at sensing Ryatsu, he could tell that this guy was stronger than him. Ichigo jumped over to where the man and Tatsuki were talking on another boulder. "Wow, Tatsuki, that was pretty impressive there," he yelled. Both turned to him and Tatsuki beamed him a smile in thanks. "Thanks, Ichigo, but it wouldn't have been possible if he didn't teach me anything," she stated as she pointed at Naruto, who was just looking at Ichigo, but all Ichigo could see was a shadow covering his face. "Yeah, well, who is that anyway?" asked Ichigo. Naruto lifted his head up slightly to show his grinning mouth, but Ichigo was instantly attracted to his teeth, which were elongated, and gave off an evil smile. "I am the one that's going to be kicking your butt for the next 5 days, Strawberry," answered Naruto as Ichigo got a little mad. What, I'll beat you into the ground? Yelled Ichigo as he jumped at Naruto and tried to cut his head off, but Naruto just raised his sword and blocked with little effort. If that is all that you have, then Rukia is as good as dead, stated Naruto as Ichigo got even more mad and jumped back. Tatsuki, you should perhaps go find Yoruichi so that you can continue your training, stated Naruto. Right, you better tell me how this works out later tonight, she answered as she took off to where Yoruichi was training Chad and Orihime. Take this. Getsuga Tensho! Yelled Ichigo as a blast of blue energy flew to Naruto, while cutting the ground apart. Naruto calmly stood there until the blast hit him full on. When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood there unharmed, while the ground around him was completely torn up by the attack. That was pathetic. Your attack couldn't even scratch me. If you want to rescue Rukia, then you will have to be much stronger than that. I am going to push you to the brink for the next 5 days, and when we are done here, you will be able to handle any Shinigami below a captain's level and maybe most captains while they are in Shirkai, said Naruto as he released his Ryatsu to show Ichigo the difference in power. Who are you? Ichigo managed to stutter out while he was pinned to the ground by this mysterious person's Ryatsu. Naruto smiled as he let up his Ryatsu and Ichigo stood and looked at him again, only to get back in an aggressive stance as Naruto's eyes now shone from under his hood. The eyes of a hollow, the eyes of a being made to kill and consume. What the hell are you? Ichigo demanded. I was once known as the God King of Hyuko Mundo by every being in existence. Now I am sort of Kami himself that seeks to restore balance to the world, either hollow or Shinigami. I am the Forsaken and my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, shouted Naruto as the hood flew off his head showing his face and hair. Naruto! What is up with your eyes and what are you doing here? Shouted Ichigo as he was trying to comprehend why Naruto was there in the first place. Didn't you listen to my title? I used to be the most powerful hollow in existence 4,000 years ago, but I sealed myself up and went into a metamorphosis that turned me into a half hollow and half Shinigami being. I am here to help save this world from a being that wishes to rule it, proclaimed Naruto as Ichigo was still trying to process what he said. So all this time you have been around me while I've fought hollows? Why haven't you done anything to help and why didn't you rescue Rukia? Aren't you supposed to be like 4,000 years old, so why couldn't you save Rukia? Asked Ichigo. Well, yeah, I wanted you to fight those hollows without my help, and about the now saving Rukia, I was fighting 2 captains at once, so cut me some slack. Then Tatsuki was going to explode from the Ryatsu she gained, so I had to bring her here, explained Naruto. Fine, so you are like extremely old and are going to be teaching me for the next 5 days? Asked Ichigo. Exactly. Now I personally believe that most people learn better when their lives are in danger, so my clones are going to try and kill you. If you want to survive, then you better get stronger or they will kill you, said Naruto as he summoned 100 clones of himself, which made Ichigo back up in shock. Now Ichigo, can you rise against my army and pass yet another step to save Rukia? Asked Naruto as he summoned a big boombox and started playing Dancing for Rain by Rise Against. Immediately 10 clones jumped at Ichigo and tried to attack him. Thankfully Ichigo was ready and defended himself from the clones, but he wasn't able to score a hit against the clones. Ichigo was able to overpower the defenses, but another clone would just defend any opening left by another. Getsuga Tensho! Yelled Ichigo as a blast of blue energy shot at 3 clones. Kunpiki Rakurai! Shouted the 3 clones as they launched attacks of their own at the Getsuga. The attacks collided in air and exploded in a blast of energy, but neither Ichigo or the clones had taken any damage, but the clones looked slightly winded. You have 5 days to beat all 100 of my clones. If you cannot beat my clones before then you do not have the resolve needed to save Rukia, said Naruto as his clones started to attack again even faster than before. 5 days, I will do it in 3, declared Ichigo as he met the clones in vicious combat. Do you think that Naruto will get him strong enough? Asked Isshin as he watched Ichigo fight Naruto's clones as Urahara also observed the battle. If what Naruto said is true, then Ichigo should be able to learn even more techniques from Zangetsu. He may like the more explosive attacks, but he needs to work on his strategy more than anything. Besides, if Naruto was only using half his power against us, then I don't even want to know how powerful your son will be, stated Urahara as he watched Ichigo get driven into the ground by a powerful kick only to shoot back up, destroy his first clone. Well, putting himself in harm's way just to get an opening isn't really good strategy. He needs to get more experience, it's not power that he is lacking, stated Isshin again as Ichigo barely ducked under a blow. Well, time can only tell, why don't we go and see how the others are making out? Asked Urahara as the 2 left without Ichigo even noticing. 5 days had passed since Ichigo had begun his training with Naruto, and like Ichigo said, he had beaten all 100 in just 3 days. During those 3 days, Ichigo had learned to trust Zangetsu in everything as Zangetsu was a part of him. Zangetsu had even showed him a couple of moves that would aid him in the future against stronger opponents. The last 2 days, Naruto fought against Ichigo personally and taught him many things that had to do with controlling one's power and when to release your power for the maximum effect. He had even started to teach him about the first steps to achieving his Bankai, which would be accomplished later after they had infiltrated Soul Society. Naruto had explained to Ichigo his story about his life and death, on how he had ended the Hollow Shinigami War and taken up the throne of Hyuko Mundo after the truce was made. After that, the two remained friends, as even though Naruto was way older than Ichigo, he still acted like a teen most of the time. Well, Ichigo, you managed to pass my training. We will be leaving tonight, so get some rest. Once we enter Soul Society, we might be under attack by Soul Reapers, said Naruto as he shaked at his sword. Ha, don't worry about me, I can beat most of them now after those 5 days, exclaimed Ichigo. Don't be cocky, we could run into every one of the 13 captains and be screwed at the very beginning, answered Naruto. Yeah, whatever, aren't you supposed to be some super strong god king or something? Well, you certainly don't act like it too much, said Ichigo. Well, you aren't one to talk, Strawberry. Now, if you'll excuse me, I would like to spend time with a certain vixen before we leave tomorrow, replied Naruto as he took off in the direction of where Tatsuki was. You better not do anything funny, Naruto, she is like my younger sister. I will kick your ass if you do, yelled Ichigo. Tatsuki was in a furious spar with Yorichi at the moment. Despite how good Tatsuki had gotten in the past 10 days, she was still much weaker than the experienced captain that was fighting her in a flash battle. She had even gained a third tail during her training, and could sorta keep up with the goddess of Flash at first. But then she would just take it up another notch and beat her into the ground once again. Thankfully, her hero lessened the pain that each blow dealt upon her so she could keep fighting longer. Tatsuki dodged underneath a kick and lashed out with a kick of her own, but it was pushed aside by Yorichi. She followed with 2 swipes from her elongated claws, but Yorichi just dodged the deadly assets. Yorichi then came into her guard and kneed her in the gut before slamming her fist into her face and sending her into the ground. Tatsuki slowly stood up from the indent in the ground and glared at the smirking Yorichi, before she came at her once again in a flurry of swipes and kicks. The style that she learned from Naruto relied on her claws to cut opponents, and any other part of her body to close the distance between them so that she would be even more deadly. At that point, the 2 fighters heard clapping coming from behind them on one of the many rocks in the training field. They turned around to see Naruto standing there smiling while looking at Tatsuki. That was really impressive, Tatsuki. I would say at the level you are at now, you could take on a lieutenant and stand a pretty good chance at winning. Not to mention the big guy behind is probably on the same level, stated Naruto as he sensed Chad behind him. So you have spiritual powers too, Naruto? I should have expected as much, you are way too unpredictable, said Chad as he walked beside him and looked him in the eyes and went wide-eyed himself when he saw Naruto's hollow eyes. Would you believe me if I told you that I used to be a hollow god king that froze himself so he could prevent the destruction of the universe? Asked Naruto as Chad just sighed and looked at Tatsuki and Yorichi, who were just taking their sweet time to get up there. Actually, I guess that just is you, stated Chad as they finally made it up there. Naruto! Shouted Tatsuki as he hugged him and kissed him on the lips in front of Chad to his surprise. They finally broke the kiss after a few seconds and just stared at each other in the eyes, but were soon interrupted by Yorichi coughing to get their attention. I suggest you two break apart, or either of you will get any sleep for tomorrow, said Yorichi. That's a great idea, Yorichi, but one question, where is Oriheim? Asked Ichigo as Tatsuki also looked confused as she remembered the Oriheim was there when Tatsuki started training but then disappeared. Oh well, Tezai said that he would help in her abilities as he was the Kido captain at one time, said Yorichi. Oh, that's good. Did you at least teach her Shunpa? Asked Naruto as they all walked back to the ladder. Yeah, I sure did, answered Yorichi. Good, because this time tomorrow's Soul Society is going to be a war zone, exclaimed Naruto as they made it to the ladder. Man, that was close, exclaimed Ichigo as he started walking around Soul Society while everyone else was trying to compose themselves. Yorichi was glaring at Oriheim, who looked pretty sad. Yuria was putting on another cloak to the confusion of Chad, and Naruto was kissing Tatsuki. All in all, it was a strange sight for everyone who looked at the group that had just come from the human world. So that's the gate to the Seratai? It hasn't really changed in 4,000 years. I was expecting a little more decoration or even more guards, as I did warn Soul Society that I was coming to get Rukia, stated Naruto. So that's Soul Society? What are we waiting for? Let's go, yelled Ichigo as he charged toward the gate. Idiot, get back here, yelled Yoruichi as Naruto just looked at Ichigo as if he were stupid. Is something bad about to happen? Asked Tatsuki. No, nothing too bad, it's just that even if he does get by the giant, he still has to open that huge gate to get in, answered Naruto as Tatsuki just thought Ichigo was a little too rash for her liking. Orihime, Chad, Yuryu all chased after a charging Ichigo when a giant of a man crashed down in front of Ichigo. Where do you think you are going? Asked Jidambo in a booming voice. Where does it think I'm going? I'm going into Soul Society, and nothing is going to stop me. Not even you, yelled Ichigo. Haha, you think that you can get past me, little man? I am Jidambo, one of the gate guardians of the Seratai, and the most powerful by far. No one has ever invaded Seratai through my gate in hundreds of years. Laughed out Jidambo as Ichigo just looked angry. Oh, this won't be too good for Jidambo, he is way too overconfident. The gate guards were put there just to be intimidating, not because they were extremely powerful. After those 10 days of training, Ichigo should have no problem fighting him here. Now the problem is opening those massive gates, stated Naruto as he just watched Jidambo begin to wave his giant axes around. Naruto, Yoruichi, and Tatsuki all watched as Jidambo tried to crush Ichigo with his axe, but Ichigo didn't even budge from his spot as each of the massive strikes clashed with Zangetsu. Soon he was trying to crush Ichigo with 2 axes and trying to count out the number of hits that he was doing, although failing. Is that all? Well, I guess it is my turn then, yelled Ichigo as he slammed Zangetsu into the 2 axes, and to the surprise of everyone but Naruto, the axes shattered into millions of pieces. Jidambo stared at his shattered axes for a second before wailing at the top of his lungs about how mean Ichigo is, to the shock of everyone, even Naruto. That is before Ichigo recovered and got on Jidambo's good side and even got him to open the gate for the heroes. Look at him go, stated Naruto as Jidambo easily lifted the massive gate, but on the other side was none other than Jin Ikimaru. Well, what a pleasant surprise we have here, stated Jin. "CA Captain Ikimaru," stuttered Jidambo. Why are you letting these humans into the Seratai? Asked the captain with his creepy smile. I don't like this guy, he reminds me of a snake, stated Naruto as the others nodded. They defeated me in combat. It is my responsibility as gatekeeper to open the gate for, started Jidambo. Fool, just because you lose doesn't mean that you open the gate for them. It just means that you die, said Jin as he disappeared, and soon Jidambo was missing one of his limbs. Yoruichi, make sure everyone gets inside safely, stated Naruto as he disappeared from the area around Tatsuki and Yoruichi. Damn him, she yelled in frustration. Where did he go? Asked Tatsuki. He went into the Seratai by himself, to probably create a distraction for us to enter more easily. The only distraction he can do is to fight a lot of Soul Reapers and get them to look for him, said Yoruichi as Tatsuki was pissed that he left her behind. How can you just hurt one of your own like that? He is defenseless, yelled Ichigo as Jin just grinned at him. Well, aren't you surprising? No matter, you are not strong enough to fight me. Shoot Shinso, stated Jin calmly as his sword extended directly at a stunned Ichigo, who had just enough time to raise his sword to defend himself from being impaled. However, he was unable to hold his ground and was sent directly into the struggling Jidambo, knocking them out of the Seratai. As the gate closed, they could see Jin mockingly wave at them. Damn! What are we supposed to do now? Yelled Ichigo as Orihime looked after Jidambo, who was unconscious. We find another way into the Seratai, stated Yoruichi. Well, if that guy didn't just knock me out of the gate, we would already be in, retorted Ichigo. You would have stood no chance against him. He is Jin Ikimaru, captain of the 3rd squad. No matter what, we would have needed to find another way in, said Yoruichi. Well, couldn't Naruto have fought the guy and defeated him? Where is he anyway? Asked Ichigo as Chad and Yuri looked at Yoruichi for an answer. None noticed the look of fury on Tatsuki's face. That jerk snuck into the Seratai while you were distracting that captain, yelled Tatsuki. What, he left me behind? About time I was alone to have some fun here, though Naruto as he ran across the roofs of the Seratai, while memorizing all of the streets for later. Oh, look at that, a perfect pair to mess with, thought Naruto with glee as he spied a bald Shinigami and a black-haired Shinigami sparring in some sort of training ground. Soon he had made an army of shadow clones and hinged them all as cute little bunnies and started his first prank on the Seratai. So we have patrol duty tomorrow? It's not like anything ever happens here. The last Hollow in Soul Society was like close to 100 years ago, shouted the bald one. At least we aren't cleaning or something like that. What's that? Asked the one with black hair. He was pointing at one of Naruto's small bunnies that was hopping across the grounds toward them. "What the hell is a bunny doing here in our training grounds? If Captain finds it, he'll flip out," said the bald one as the bunny stopped in front of them and just stared at the two. The bald one glared back and the black-haired one just looked at it curiously. "Well, might as well kill it, might taste good," stated the bald one as the bunny turned and hopped towards a line of bushes. "Get back here!" The two chased it to the end of the grounds until it disappeared behind a line of bushes. "Okay, where did my lunch go?" asked the bald one again, but it was soon answered as it jumped back out with a few friends. "Where are these things coming from?" asked the black-haired one. Soon even more started to jump out of the bushes, forming a large semicircle around the Shinigami. "What the hell is happening?" asked the bald one. "I don't know, it looks like they want to attack us," said the black-haired one, as the bunnies began to glare at the Shinigami. "What, those things couldn't do a thing to us," said the bald one as he began to argue with the black-haired one. Either noticed the first bunny begin to grow in size and take on a feral appearance. "Fine, let's just kill it then," yelled the bald one as the two turned towards the first rabbit and got a huge shock as a massive bunny that twice their size stood there. It had red eyes, dark shaggy hair, mucus dripping from its fawn-covered mouth, and massive claws on its paws. "What the hell?" thought both Shinigami. "Roar!" roared the massive feral demon bunny. The roar was so loud that it got many of the 11th squad outside to see what could have caused such a loud roar. "What the hell is that thing?" asked one. At that moment the remaining bunnies all began to change into beasts similar to the first. Most of the Shinigami at this moment were scared for their lives at the massive evil bunnies. Across the Seratai, all of the captains were having a meeting about the humans attacking one of the gates to the Seratai. "So you allowed these humans to escape with their lives, Captain Ikamaru?" questioned Captain Kuratsuchi. "Well, since I closed the gate, there was no reason for me to do anything about these humans," answered Captain Ikamaru. "Ha, I bet you just couldn't beat them yourself. If I was the one to confront them, they would all be dead," boosted Captain Zarakai. "It doesn't matter. Did you notice if the hollow that fought both Captains Hitsugaya and Zarakai was with them?" asked the head captain. Now that you mention it, I did see a man resembling the description provided by both captains, but when the gate was closing I noticed that he was no longer with his group. It seems strange that he would just disappear like that. Maybe he snuck in when my attention was focused on the orange-haired one," stated Ikamaru. "What? We may have a hollow running around the Seratai, and we have no way of finding it," yelled Captain Suifoam. Aizen just stood at the back thinking about this strange hollow. It seems it can mask its Ryatsu completely like any of us, and it must be able to suppress any basic urges it feels to eat souls. So why is it here in Seratai and not in the human world? Why didn't it just stay in Hyukomundo when it woke up? I'm going to have to talk with this hollow one-on-one. If it doesn't see things my way, then I will have to kill it, thought Aizen as he listened to the captains continue to argue. At that moment explosions rocked the 1st Division's headquarters and a Shinigami ran into the room. "Captains, the 11th Division headquarters are under attack by some unknown enemy. They are requesting backup from anyone who can be spared," yelled the Shinigami as all the captains looked at each other before rushing out of the building. When they reached the 11th Division headquarters, they were met with a very strange sight, for there were men running away from gigantic demon bunnies that were trying to eat them. Despite how ridiculous this all looked, the captains quickly recovered and killed the bunnies, but found that they just disappeared into clouds of smoke. "Start cleaning up this mess," yelled Zarakai as he was pissed that his division was the one that had to deal with such a stupid attack. As he and the rest of the captains turned and head back to the main area, they were dumbstruck at one of the strangest things they had ever seen before. There, the largest tower in the Seratai, was a painting of a man giving them the victory sign, and above the painting was the message in bright yellow paint: "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was here. I want Divisions 3, 5, 7, 10, and 11 to all find this hollow and capture him alive to be questioned," he said as those divisions all quickly went to their headquarters to alert their squads of their missions. Unaware to them, Naruto had hinged himself as an unknown Shinigami and was laying traps in each squad's headquarters through the expert use of shadow clones. The next 8 hours would forever be known as the Day of Rainbows, as each squad was covered in different color paint caused by the most notorious prankster the world has ever met. That morning, with Ichigo and the others, they were all ready to smash through the defenses of the Seratai. Ichigo had finally learned how to maintain the shield long enough to reach the barrier. "Once we get inside the barrier, we are to stick together and try to find Naruto. Chances are he should be able to find us before we can find him. If you encounter any captain, you are to try to retreat. Fighting is the last option that you should choose," explained Yoruichi. Everyone nodded, including the newcomer Ganju, who was coming with them to find out the real reason his brother was killed by those that he trusted. They all started channeling their Ryatsu into the orb, and soon they were surrounded by a blue shield. At that moment they were launched at the barrier by means of a massive cannon. Naruto was currently stuck in a predicament. He thought that it would be funny to prank the hospital of the Seratai. However, he didn't count on there being 3 captains already there, including the terrifying Captain Unohana. Along with her were Captains Kairaku and Yukitake. "So do you mind me asking what you are doing with those buckets of paint at my hospital?" asked Unohana as she smiled sweetly at Naruto. Was all Naruto was able to say as he started to sweat lightly from the look that Unohana was giving him, while the 2 male captains were inching away from their friend as they knew to avoid that smile at all costs. "If you don't mind, could you please put that paint down, and not do anything to my hospital?" she asked nicely, and Naruto quickly sealed the paint away into a few seals. "Well, now that is taken care of, we can get on to business. What are your real reasons for being here in the Seratai?" asked Captain Kairaku. "I'm sure you've already heard my real reasons for being here. So I don't really have to answer that now, do I?" asked Naruto with a smile. "Yes, we heard that you were here to rescue Rukia Kichiki from her fate, but your methods are pointing to alternative motives. If all that you wanted was to rescue her, you would have done it before we knew that you were past the gates. So what are the real reasons for you being here?" asked Captain Yukitake. "Wow. You two have already figured it out? Well, if you must know, I have 2 more reasons for being here. One is to see how powerful Soul Society has become since I was last here, and the other is to find a man who wants to be God," said Naruto as the 3 captains before him looked at each other. "What do you mean by that?" asked Kairaku. "It means that a storm's coming and the world shall be plunged into darkness if I have nothing to say about it. Now show me the power that Soul Society has," yelled Naruto as he used Sonito to appear behind the 2 captains. Meanwhile, Captain Unohana just watched the match on the sidelines. Both captains jumped into the air to avoid the attack and drew their swords at the same time. Naruto followed after the 2 and was attacking both at the same time as he was faster than the 2 captains at their current level. Both captains started to work together and were meeting Naruto at the center of the courtyard. Together they were able to hold of the blonde, but they could tell that he could increase his power as Naruto smiled during the entire battle. "Ah, this is so much fun! I haven't fought anyone in solo combat in so long as it is boring, but together you two are a remarkable team," exclaimed Naruto as he parried an attack from Kairaku and dodged under an attack by Yukitake. "How can this guy be this good? Together we can probably beat old man Yamamoto. We can't keep this pace up forever as Yukitake's sickness will start to affect him," thought Shunsui as he decided to take it to the next level if Naruto did. Naruto finally was able to get an opening and delivered a kick to Kairaku's ribs and sent him into a wall, causing it to collapse. However, he underestimated Yukitake as the captain increased his speed slightly, and he swung for his exposed chest. However, a metallic clang sounded throughout the courtyard. Yukitake was stunned by the fact that his sword didn't even pierce the skin of Naruto's hero. He was unable to think on this as Naruto quickly spun, brought his hand around and smashed his fist into the sick captain's face, and sending him into a wall close to where Kairaku was now standing up once again. "Damn, that kick hurt!" exclaimed Kairaku as he helped Yukitake up. However, the sick captain lost his footing and started to cough his lungs out while Kairaku looked worried. Naruto himself was slightly pleased with the 2 captains before him. It took guts to get back up after being hit by Naruto, and he felt that those 2 were probably 2 of the few truly ready for the war coming. However, he would have to do something about the sickness the one with gray hair had. Kairaku was helping Yukitake up when he was launched away from him by the blonde hollow, and he could do little as he watched Naruto lift a glowing blue hand to the chest of his friend who was still coughing. Slowly the coughing lessened as the blue glow transferred from Naruto to Yukitake's chest. At that instant Yukitake stopped coughing and fell unconscious. Kairaku charged Naruto and tried with all his strength to defeat him. After 2 minutes they stopped for a second and Kairaku asked what happened. "What did you do to him?" demanded the captain. "And nothing, just cured him of his disease," answered Naruto casually. "What, why would you do that?" asked Kairaku. "Because he needs to be at full strength to survive the coming war," answered Naruto as he heard a loud bang and looked to the sky to see a huge blue ball explode and send several smaller balls around the Seratai. "Now if you don't mind, I have to go find some friends of mine," said Naruto as he disappeared with Sonito. Ichigo slowly stood to his feet after crashing into the ground after his entire group had been blown into separate directions after entering the Seratai. Looking up, he realized that he had no idea where he was and furthermore how to get to Rukia. "Where the hell am I supposed to go now?" he questioned himself before he chose a random direction and just ran. What just hit me? Asked Tatsuki as she stood to her feet and looked around the alley she was located in. That's when she spotted a slightly confused Oriheim slowly sitting up. Oriheim! What just happened? Asked Tatsuki as she helped her friend up to her feet. I think we barely made it through the barrier, but we couldn't keep it up so it launched us into different directions. Where are the others? Did you see which direction they went after the sphere broke? Asked Oriheim. No, I just remember everything flying around me at a fast pace. We should go look for the others before we do anything else though, and besides I'm sure Naruto is already rounding everyone up as we speak, said Tatsuki with hope in her eyes. You're right, Tatsuki, Naruto will always put his friends before himself and I'm sure he's on his way here right now, shouted Oriheim, unknowingly attracting a few nearby Soul Reapers. On the other side of the Seratai, Naruto felt a cold shiver run up his back while he waited in line for a hot bowl of ramen. Ah man, feels like I'm going to be in trouble after I eat this bowl, thought Naruto as he quickly slurped down his 20th bowl. Oriheim, you have be quiet, we're in enemy territory so you never know where they might be, scolded Tatsuki, but it was already too late as they were surrounded by 4 Soul Reapers dressed in black ninja-like clothes. You are under arrest for assaulting the Seratai, Ryoka. Surrender and we will promise you that no harm will be done to you, said one of the ninja. How you think we're afraid of you? I was trained by an actual ninja, unlike you fake wannabes. If you were ninja you would have never even shown yourselves until it was time to attack. Now if you want to fight all you needed to do was ask, Tatsuki stated as he slid into her stance and changed into her fox form. Oriheim herself got into a defensive stance to cover Tatsuki as she was outmatched by the ninja. Tatsuki didn't wait for the Soul Reapers to attack and launched herself at the first one to her right. Luckily this one wasn't the strongest of fighters and was only able to block her right hook before he was nailed in the gut by Tatsuki's knee, which sent him into the alley wall. She quickly ducked under a swipe from a kunai-like weapon from the one next to the one she had just knocked out. She dodged a few more swipes before she caught it with her left claw and cut 5 deep gashes across his chest. Oriheim herself was using her shield to keep the other 2 Soul Reapers at bay while Tatsuki handled the other 2. Thankfully neither had the speed or power to get by her shield, so it wasn't long before Tatsuki showed up and engaged the last 2 ninja. She quickly incapacitated the 2 and they were on their way through the 2nd Division's headquarters unaware that they were being followed by a very angry bee. Their goal was to quickly find Naruto and free Rukia. Yuryu and Chad slowly stood to their feet and realized that they were in trouble as they were surrounded by what seemed to be a small army of Shinigami all looking at the 2 in confusion. Kill them! Yelled a random Shinigami as he raised his sword, rousing the other Shinigami to raise their swords. Get that they started before a large shockwave knocked about 20 of them away into one of the many walls. The rest quickly stopped and stared at Chad as he still had his arm extended while it was still smoking. We need to find Ichigo and Naruto, he stated in his deep voice while the remaining Shinigami looked terrified, but that didn't stop them from attacking. Many were quickly taken down as green arrows pierced many through the chest, knocking them out quickly. I guess Naruto was right that it would be more efficient to use attacks that could only stun instead of kill, said Yuryu as he fixed his glasses before he locked eyes with Chad and the 2 of them quickly attacked the remaining Shinigami. That was anticlimactic, stated Chad as he and Yuryu walked down the road before they both jumped back away from a weird-looking Shinigami that looked like a clown. Will you look at this, we have 2 Ryoka here in the Seratai, and one is a Quincy and the other I have no clue. After I beat you I will have to examine your bodies for use later, stated the captain as he drew his Zanpakuto. Who are you? Asked Yuryu as he and Chad both summoned their respective weapons. If I were you then I would lower my weapons and come with me peacefully. You are both aiding a hollow being and I have been given full reign to use my powers and I don't need you alive to examine your bodies. Just like that other Quincy I examined a few years back, smiled the clown-looking captain. It was you that ordered the Soul Reapers to not protect my grandfather, seethed Yuryu as he readied an arrow, while Chad looked confused about what the 2 were talking about. Oh, so you were his grandson? Well, I'm happy to tell you that he gave more than enough information on how the Quincy works. I'll be more than happy to show you that fruits of my research, smiled the captain. What's your name? Asked Chad before Yuryu could answer. I'm Captain Kurosukthi, head of the Research and Development Squad, smiled the captain as he disappeared from view, or so he thought, but the 2 could follow his movements if not barely. Yuryu quickly fired off 10 shots from his spirit bow that made the captain jump back to avoid the deadly projectiles while Chad ran forward to meet the captain. Kurosukthi narrowly dodged Chad's gauntlet and was shocked by the sheer force that the punch packed. He realized that he couldn't even afford to be hit by a single one of those punches. Quickly he tried to cut into Chad, but once again had to jump back as more spirit arrows flew at him. Thankfully, the last 5 days at Urahara's had been dedicated to teamwork exercises between the group of 4. They learned that Tatsuki and Chad were the close-range fighters while Orihime and Yuryu were perfect for covering their backs and exploiting any openings that they saw. Quickly, Kurasuchi continued to dodge bolts and the occasional punch from Chad. It was a tedious business, but neither side was able to land a successful hit on the other. So in frustration, Mayuri released his shuriken, which resembled a trident-like blade. I'm impressed that Ryoka could hold me off so well, but it ends here. My Zanpakuto now is deadly even from the slightest of scratches, stated the captain, while Chad and Yuryu both regrouped. Chad, get him into the air, and I will finish this fight. Don't let him hit you with his blade, stated Yuryu as Chad nodded before charging at the captain. Not this tactic again, didn't you learn that it won't work? Asked Kuratsuchi, but he was surprised when Chad hit the ground 10 yards in front of him, causing the ground to act like a catapult and launch him into the air, where Yuryu was already waiting. Spirit arrow missile, he yelled as a very large dark blue arrow shot from his bow right into the airborne captain. If you haven't noticed, I have made them all stronger than before, and have made my own attacks for a few of them. Orihime will still be a bit of a coward and won't attack often like Tatsuki. Chad is also much faster than before, but still not even close to being the fastest. Kuratsuchi slammed into the ground where the arrow exploded in a dark blue haze. Yuryu landed by Chad and the two stood at the ready expecting Kuratsuchi to pop out at any second. Now you've seriously pissed me off, came the voice of the madman as he stood out of the crater, bleeding heavily and missing an arm. Tatsuki and Orihime were quite frankly in trouble. Facing them was a petite woman around Tatsuki's size, and by what they knew, she was a captain. So isn't this a surprise to Ryoka here in the Saratai after the being Naruto shows up a day in advance? I'm taking the two of you are with, and if that is so, then I will have to take you in, she stated, as if she didn't really care about them. So who are you supposed to be? Asked Tatsuki as he looked at the small captain. I am Captain Soifun of the 2nd Division, little girl, she stated. Oh no you didn't. I'm not some little girl. I'll beat your ass into the ground, yelled Tatsuki as he transformed into her fox form. Looks like you won't be coming in peacefully, stated the captain before she disappeared from view. Tatsuki looked around for a second before she sensed an attack and rolled out of the way, narrowly avoiding a powerful kick delivered by the small captain. Tatsuki spun on her heel and tried to deliver a high kick to Soifun, but the captain ducked under the kick and tried to attack with an uppercut that Tatsuki barely managed to block. She jumped back and crouched low to the ground, and she grew her second tail to increase her power. Interesting, muttered Soifun as she took a defensive stance and barely managed a clawed swipe from Tatsuki. For the next few minutes Soifun was on the defensive, as she was dodging the deadly attacks. A few had made it through, but the cuts were extremely shallow. Deciding it was time to take it up a notch, she started increasing her speed, and Tatsuki was unable to adapt quickly enough and suffered a kick that sent her flying back. But Soifun shunpoed right in front of her and slammed her elbow into her gut, elucidating a cry from Tatsuki. At that moment Orihime intervened and shot one of her fairies at Soifun, but it was easily dodged by the captain. She was barely able to raise a shield in time, before Soifun's foot slammed into the shield, cracking it slightly. However, that didn't stop the captain as she repeatedly slammed her fists into the shield and soon spider cracks appeared all around it before it shattered into a million pieces. But Soifun was done with that. She reeled back her fist, ready to deliver a crippling blow to Orihime. However, she was hit by a blast of violet energy. Tatsuki stood panting over by where she had been knocked into the ground. Slowly a third tail began to grow out of her back as her nails got longer, and her body started to gain a red aurora. Soifun stood up and glared at Tatsuki and vaguely noticed that she now had 3 tails instead of 2. They both stayed still for a second, either willing to make the first move. One could cut the tension with a feather if they were stand between the two. Of course no one was that stupid, but you get the point. As if by some unspoken agreement they attacked each other in a flurry of hand-to-hand combat that many people would be unable to stand up to nowadays, but not for these two martial artists. For them this was nothing more than something that they had been bred to do. Despite her now increased strength and speed, Tatsuki just didn't have the strength or experience to hold her ground for more than a few minutes. Pretty soon Soifun was dealing much more damage than what Tatsuki could deal herself. She was slammed into the ground one last time and Soifun approached her still form, completely focused on ending this fight once and for all. She was so focused on defeating one of the few beings to have ever given her a good hand-to-hand battle in decades, that she didn't even notice the blade of energy coming from behind her until it was too late. She screamed in pain as she felt her back get cut open pretty deeply. There was just no way that she could be defeated by these two Ryoka. How could she completely forget about the other one that was just there for support? Orihime was panting heavily after that last attack. She had finally had enough and attacked with purpose and had even seriously wounded the captain. It was about time too, as Tatsuki's life could have been ended by the formidable captain, but one opening was all that was needed to win this battle. She quickly ran over to Tatsuki and healed her while the captain had lost conscious. Tatsuki thanked Orihime and the two were off to find Naruto. Ichigo and Ganju were now facing a very pissed-off Renji at the bottom of a very long set of stairs. Unknown to both parties, Naruto was watching with a large bag of popcorn and a camcorder to record one Ichigo's very first fights. He had even made a large group of female clones that would swamp Ichigo if he won the battle. Oh, life was good. Chad and Yuri looked on slightly disgusted as Koretsuchi regrew his arm using a very strange regenerative formula. "I am going to finish this in one blow," declared the caption, but before he could even react he was bombarded by spirit arrows once again. "We're not going to give you that chance," declared Yuryu as his hand began to glow blue and many bows started to grow out of his glove. Chad gripped his arm as energy began to build in his fist. "Rapid spirit assault," cried Yuryu as he started firing off arrows at the speed at which a machine gun would fire. Chad followed the arrows right into a damaged Kuratsuchi, who was too slow to dodge all of the arrows. Chad slammed his glowing gauntlet into the gut of Kuratsuchi and released all of the area. Kuratsuchi's face seemed to inflate for a second before he exploded into nothing but water. Yuryu walked up to Chad and looked at the water for a second. "That was weird," stated Chad before he turned and ran off with Yuryu following behind him. It seems that Yuryu and Chad defeated that madman, and Ichigo just beat Renji, which means, thought Naruto as he made a small signal. "We love you, Ichigo Kurosaki!" screamed 100 barely covered women that all looked a little different as they hugged the stunned Ichigo. For a second nothing happened before he shot backwards into a wall, knocking him out, due to nothing more than a massive nosebleed. Naruto was on the ground laughing his ass off at what had just happened. It seems that Ichigo Kurosaki was a closet pervert, and the best part was that it was all on tape. "You idiot, why didn't you just leave and get away with your life? I was ready to die and now you come to save me," screamed Rukia while she was hanging in the air. "Shut up, midget, I would never abandon you like that. If it wasn't for you, then my family and I would be dead. I owe you my life and you are my best friend. I will never abandon you. I would die for you, Rukia," stated Ichigo softly as Rukia's eyes began to fill with tears. "I don't want you to get hurt," whispered Rukia softly, but Ichigo heard every word. "Don't worry, I've been doing a lot of training over the past few days. I can handle just about anything coming at us," answered Ichigo confidently. "How can anyone's Zanpakuto have that much power?" asked Captain Soifun as she stared at Ichigo holding off the blazing phoenix. "Just let me handle this overgrown chicken, and we will be on our way," shouted Ichigo as he forced the phoenix back and charged at it. But before he could reach it, Captains Yukitake and Kairaku both showed up and subdued the giant bird, only to run away from a furious Captain Commander. "Looks like Renji made it after all," stated Ichigo as he watched Renji beat his way through a few low-level Shinigami. "Took your sweet time getting here, Renji," yelled Tatsuki as she and Naruto appeared out of nowhere just a few yards away from the group of captain that were already there. "Shut up. I had to fight through my old captain to get here. You just followed Naruto all the way here," retorted Renji, while both Naruto and Ichigo had tick marks on their heads, indicating how annoyed they were. "Shut up, Renji. Now take Rukia and run," yelled Ichigo. "And how do you think I'm going to be able to make it up there, past all these captains?" yelled Renji back. "Who said anything about you coming up here? Ready or not, here she comes," yelled Ichigo as he lifted Rukia up above his head with one hand. "Put me down, Ichigo," screamed Rukia. "What are doing, Ichigo? That's crazy," yelled Renji, but Ichigo threw Rukia like a missile and nailed Renji right in the chest, sending him skidding 20 yards back. "Do not stop for any reason, Renji. You continue running until Rukia is safe," yelled Ichigo as Renji picked Rukia up and ran for their lives. "All lieutenants pursue the traitors," ordered Soifun. "Tatsuki, take care of the lieutenants. I will handle Soifun until Yorichi shows up," said Naruto as Tatsuki turned to her three-tailed state and took off, blocking the exit of the three lieutenants. Naruto turned and stared at Soifun, but she just looked back with a smug look on her face as if she had already won this battle. "You should run hollow, before I finish you off once and for all," stated Soifun as she activated the shurikai of her blade. "Your overconfidence will only get you hurt," Go run along before you deal with more than what you can handle, stated Naruto, pissing Soifun off. I'll kill you! Screamed Soifun as she attacked Naruto. Naruto dodged every one of her frenzied attacks with ease and got bored quickly. He grabbed both of her hands and kneed her in the chest, making her gasp, and throwing her across the ground. Sorry, but my fight isn't with you. Besides, Yoruichi can easily handle you while I take care of some things I need to do, stated Naruto as he had just sensed a terrifying strength from across the Saratai. Soifun was startled when she saw her former captain appear using Shunpa right in front of her. Hello, my little bee, was all she said before Soifun launched at her in an angry rush. Naruto looked on in interest as he observed the scene below. Out of all the captains that could have gone bad, it had to be the one that could cast an unbreakable genjutsu on anyone that looked at the blade. It was a magnificent weapon and he could tell it was powerful, but the man wielding it was pure evil. He rivaled Madara Uchiha when he was alive during his old life, and was just as good at manipulating others like that poor girl down there. Now it was time to reveal himself to the one man who had the power to challenge him in a duel. Aizen was having a very good day, despite all the trouble with the stronger humans in the Saratai and that hollow that was running around. His plans were running perfectly, and soon he would be in control of the Haigokyu. Come Jin, we must complete our mission, stated Aizen as he left both Momo and Hitsugaya on the ground in the central 46th building. Well, everything is according to plan, Aizen? Asked Jin. Yes, but first we must deal with our follower, stated Aizen as the two looked up to another building and saw Naruto standing there. Well, look at this, two captains both out for a pleasant walk while battles are raging throughout all of the Saratai. So do you mind explaining why I was released by the Spirit King to deal with you? Asked Naruto as he jumped down and looked at the two captains. Pleasure to meet you, Hollow. We were just on our way to the hill to deal with these humans when you showed up, stated Aizen with a smile. Cut the crap, Four Eyes, I know everything about you. I've known about you for 4,000 years now. I will kill you and save many lives by doing so, besides I'm not a Hollow anymore, stated Naruto with fire in his eyes. Very well, I guess you will not join me in my quest to overthrow the king? Well then I guess you are not worth my time after all, stated Aizen as he snapped his fingers and a large gargantua opened up behind him and three figures walked through the portal. The lead had black hair and green eyes and had an expressionless face on him that made him look superior to the other two. He had part of a Hollow's mask attached to the top of his head. The second had bright blue hair and eyes, and his hollow mask along his jaw. He seemed to be glaring at the lead Arrancar. The last was much larger than the other two and seemed to be smiling in delight at the battle to come. So you brought back up to fight me just in case? Well, it won't matter, I wasn't planning on fighting you today anyway, stated Naruto as the three Arrancar walked in front of Aizen. We will have our fight soon enough, started Aizen. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Remember that name, for you will come to fear it, stated Naruto as he took a taijutsu stance in front of the three Arrancar. Very well, Namikaze. None of you are to use your releases, ordered Aizen as he and Jin disappeared using Flash Step. So which of you fine gentlemen wants your ass kicked first? Asked Naruto as he smiled at the two pissed Arrancar and the emotionless one. I'm going to kick his ass. I am the king and no one talks to me like that, shouted Grimmjow as he launched himself at Naruto, faster than what most captains would be able to follow. Naruto followed him, and at the last instant brought his hand up and caught Grimmjow's attack in his hand. Naruto didn't budge an inch, but the building beside him burst apart from the kick. Every one of the Arrancar had wide eyes as Naruto stood there with Grimmjow's leg in his grasp, not moving a muscle. Grimmjow then started to yank his foot free, but the hand wouldn't let go of his foot. If any of you want a chance, you're going to have to attack at once, declared Naruto as he threw Grimmjow back to where the other two were. Grimmjow got back up and glared at the blonde man. He is mine to fight. Stay out of this, yelled Grimmjow as flew at Naruto again. So be it, said Naruto as he ducked under a punch by Grimmjow. He jumped back to avoid a knee to the face, and leaned to the side to avoid another punch. To everyone it seemed like he wasn't even trying to avoid the punches and kicks. Stay still, yelled Grimmjow as he launched even more attacks while Naruto easily dodged the attacks. Finally Grimmjow felt a great pain in his gut as he was kneed by Naruto. Naruto did an uppercut and nailed Grimmjow up and did a roundhouse kick and sent him back to the other two Arrancar. The other two both had raised eyebrows as Grimmjow was known to be the best taijutsu expert in the Espada. This guy is much stronger than I thought Ulquiorra. Grimmjow, we will attack him together. Aizen does not want any mistakes, ordered Ulquiorra as he drew his blade and Yami got a sadistic smirk on his face. Tatsuki was faring well against the 3 lieutenants that were fighting her. If it wasn't for the fact that they outnumbered her 3-1, the battle would have been over by now. Ichigo had activated his Bankai and was fighting that captain in some sort of dome. Regaining her thoughts, she ducked under a steel-spiked ball and leaned out of the way of a fencing blade, only to block a 3-pronged blade coming from the other female. Quickly she pivoted the blade away from her and brought a fist up and nailed the captain in her ribs, knocking her back. The large one again tried to smash her with his steel ball, but she evaded it and closed the distance between the two before she slid under his legs. While doing this, 2 of her tails wrapped around his legs and smashed him into the ground hard. She quickly dodged a series of stabs and slashes coming from the pompous-looking lieutenant. One of her 3 tails came around and knocked the blade to the side, and she slid into his guard and using her claws deliver 4 cuts right across his chest. It was at this moment that she noticed both Ichigo and Byakuya standing across from each other with their swords drawn. Suddenly Byakuya had a huge cut open up on his body, spraying blood around the area. At that moment Captain Unohana arrived on the scene, stopping Tatsuki from fighting the 3 lieutenants. "Lieutenants, you are ordered to stop fighting the humans and assist in the search of Sosuke Aizen. He is a traitor and has killed the Central 46. Aizen, I want you to heal the orange-haired human, while I handle Byakuya," she ordered, but none of the lieutenants moved or did Tatsuki until she smiled sweetly at them, causing them to stumble to do their jobs. She then looked at Tatsuki. "It seems you should find your friends, they are in danger," she said as she ran over to Byakuya and started to heal him. Tatsuki ran over to Ichigo right as he was done being taken care of by her former enemy. The two glared at each other before Aizen ran back over to her captain as Tatsuki just stood by Ichigo. "Well, haven't you gotten stronger, Strawberry?" exclaimed Tatsuki. Whatever, Tatsuki, but we have to go find Rukia and Rinji. I have no idea what Naruto is doing, and Chad, Yuryu, and Ganju are a mystery," said Ichigo as Tatsuki nodded before a massive explosion was seen coming from the center of the Saratai. "Guess we know where Naruto is," commented Tatsuki as Ichigo nodded. "Right, let's go find Rukia," he shouted as they started running in the direction where they saw Rinji run. As they were running, they heard Aizen announce to all of the Saratai that Captain Aizen and Captain Ikimaru were traitors and all further hostilities against the humans were to be stopped immediately. Naruto ducked under a fast slash from a sword and blocked the large fist aimed for his head, before tilting his head slightly to avoid a fast punch. Quickly, throwing the large fist into the path of the sword, he brought his one fist up and slammed it into the ribs of Grimmjow. Then, moved past Yami and was able to get inside the guard of the strongest and slam his fist into his face, throwing him back a good 20 yards. Sensing an attack from behind, he used Sonito to appear behind Yami and elbow him in the back of his head, sending him crashing to the ground. "If this is all that the 3 of you have, then you might as well surrender. Because none of you will be able to escape here alive if it is," stated Naruto coldly as he began to raise his spiritual pressure. The 3 Arrancar had regrouped, sporting minor scratches, and were feeling the effects of his pressure. Yami was sweating and breathing hard, and struggled to stay on his 2 feet. Grimmjow was sweating himself at the amount of pressure this guy had in just his base form. Okuyura's eyes had widened and a small line of sweat was running down his not-so-emotionless face. Naruto drew his sword and glared at the 2 before he disappeared using Sonito. The 3 Arrancar all got into defensive stances with their swords drawn. Okuyura barely brought his sword up to block Naruto's attack. However, he did not anticipate the strength of the blow and was sent back into a wall of a building. Naruto then brought his blade across to cut Grimmjow's head off, but the Arrancar barely managed to duck and lost the top part of his hair. Too bad Naruto wasn't done and launched a small bala at him that blew him even further away than Okuyura. Last was Yami, and the large Arrancar was able to block the first blow, but it knocked him off balance. Capitalizing on the large Arrancar's bad position, Naruto brought his sword down, cutting off Yami's left arm. He then finished by slamming his fist into this ugly face, knocking him out cold. He then lazily raised his left arm, catching Okuyura's blade in his hand, to the shock of the Arrancar. "How?" he asked. "I fight for the ones precious to me. That is what true strength is," shouted Naruto as he kicked Okuyura over to where Yami was laying. Grimmjow appeared over there holding his ribs as the earlier attacks from Naruto were now starting to take their toll on him. "I do believe I need to finish this. I'm sorry, but I need to end this," said Naruto as he started to charge up a blue Siro into his hand. If one looked closely, they could see red and orange mixed into the Siro. Suddenly Naruto looked in the direction of where he felt a large chakra source and cursed under his head before he dissipated his Siro. "Looks like you 3 are lucky that I have more business to attend to. If we meet again, I am going to kill you," stated Naruto coldly as he flew off to where he felt Ichigo's and Aizen's chakra. Ichigo and Tatsuki were pissed at this four-eyed freak before them. He just all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere and attacked both Renji and Rukia. Rukia was nearly dead as the bastard literally ripped some purple jewel right out of her. However, no matter how hard they tried, this smug bastard just made them look like children. The two of you are interesting, but you are not nearly strong enough to defeat me, stated Aizen as he used Shuinpa to get right in front of Ichigo. Ichigo brought up his blade to block the attack, but it made no difference as Aizen's blade smashed Zangetsu to pieces and proceeded to nearly cut Ichigo in half. Aizen then used Shuinpa to appear behind Tatsuki and aimed to take her head off, but suddenly his blade was caught by a hand. You have just made the worst mistake of your life, said the deadliest voice that Aizen had ever heard in his life. Aizen ducked under a kick and jumped back and was soon joined by Jin and Tozen, flanking him on both sides. So I'm taking it that you and me are now enemies, Namikes? Asked Aizen as he saw Naruto glare at him with the most hate he had ever seen. Naruto? Asked Tatsuki as she looked at the man she loved. Naruto for a brief second looked down at her and smiled. This one action caused her to completely relax for the moment. Naruto was always able to calm her down just by smiling at her with that perfect smile of his. Just then Okuora and Grimmjow used Sonito to appear behind the three captains with Yami being supported by the two. Then suddenly most of the Godai 13 captains and lieutenants started to appear on the scene surrounding the traitors and Arrancar. Unohana was looking after Ichigo as Rukia was holding on to him for dear life while Aizen was looking after an injured Byakuya and Renji. Yamamoto walked forward and stared at Aizen for a second. For your crimes against the Godai 13 and the Central 46, you Aizen Sosuke are hereby sentenced to death for high treason and the murder of the Central 46, and the attempted murder of many other Shinigami, stated the head captain as Aizen chuckled at him. I'm sorry, head captain, but I'm afraid I won't be taken today, stated Aizen as a bright beam of yellow light came from a tear in the sky where Jillian's had opened gargantuas directly to Hukomundo, where the 6 enemies were now being taken as everyone looked in horror as Aizen was escaping. By the way, I would deal with that hollow that is standing not even 10 yards away from you, said Aizen as he removed his glasses and slicked his hair back, making him look pretty badass and much more deadlier than when he looked like the caring man they all thought he was. All of the captains surrounded Naruto with their swords drawn, but a few of them were looking hesitant. Yamamoto walked up in front of Naruto and started to look him over. Naruto for his own part did not flinch in the least when the head captain targeted him with his Ryatsu. The two just stared at each other for a couple of seconds before Yamamoto turned away from Naruto and started to walk away from him. When he reached the captains, he turned and looked one more time. What is your name, Hollow? He asked as the other captains looked at him questioningly. The name's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I'm not a Hollow. I am the Forsaken, he declared as many were wondering what he meant by the Forsaken, but just shrugged it off. So be it, Naruto. These Naruto and all of his friends are no longer enemies of the Saratai. We now have more important things to discuss. In 3 days we will have a meeting to discuss what everyone knows about Aizen. That includes Naruto and all of his friends. At this statement many of the captains just walked away while a few stayed back to observe and talk to the humans, like Kenpachi, Hitsugaya, Kairaku, and Yukitake. Ichigo was now on his 2 feet being supported by the much smaller Rukia, when Naruto and Tatsuki made it over to them. Chad and Yuryu were talking to Hitsugaya right now about everything they knew about Aizen and his link to Naruto. So you finally managed to beat Byakuya? It took you a while, but I guess this won't be the hardest fight that you ever fought. Oh hey Rukia, how are feeling now that your boyfriend saved you? Finished Naruto in a humorous voice. This last sentence made both of them blush and look at each other, and the two didn't do anything for a few seconds before they just looked back at the smiling face of Naruto. Well, we all just can't be a super powerful being that is literally the champion of the Spirit King. Plus don't make us kick your ass? Yelled Ichigo, while Rukia was still trying to process how Naruto was a Hollow or Forsaken. She had no idea that he had powers, so she wanted to know the full story. Whatever, but you two better rest now. It seems that this war is going to consume the lives of many. We need you two at your strongest or this world as we know it will cease to exist, stated Naruto as he watched the sun set in the horizon. He then felt someone grab his hand and he looked down to his side to see Tatsuki smiling at him. But if we all stay together then nothing will be able to stand in our way, she stated, as Naruto smiled and nodded before he pulled her closer and kissed her passionately. They broke away and just sat down watching the sunset in the Saratai. Many of the other people on the hill decided to do the same thing. Just earlier that day they were all enemies, but now they were just people enjoying a moment of peace before the storm that would surely come to their peaceful lives. Mr. Kurosaki and you are both being called up to the captain's meeting today at 10 to discuss Aizen's betrayal, stated a lowly Shinigami from the 1st Division. Naruto was currently staying at the headquarters of Captain Kairaku, who had thrown a party to recognize the fact that they were no longer enemies to the Seratai, but very few showed up to the event. Those who did attend included a few of the captains including Kenpachi, Udatake, Kairaku, and few of the other more party-loving Soul Reapers. What followed was a wild night where Naruto showed the Seratai why he was a god. He outrank all of the captains combined and went on a journey through the Seratai, pranking everyone he set his sights upon. With the use of his clones, not a soul was left untouched by his godliness. He even came upon an intimate moment between Rukia and Ichigo, who had left the party early. But not before he convinced all of his new friends to have their first ever drinks. Ichigo and Rukia only had a few drinks, but it was enough to have them stumbling a bit. Yuria had quite a bit, and was yelling his ass off and dancing around, to the amusement of all his friends. Chad was basically his normal self, just standing around drinking. Renji, Ikaku, and a few other of the more rowdy Reapers were having a drinking contest. Kenpachi was challenging everyone to fights just cause it was him. Last you had Tatsuki, who turned out to be a real lightweight. Naruto didn't really mind this cause she was all over him at the party, but it wasn't like he wasn't all over her himself. She followed him through the Seratai, pranking all in their path. She was also the one to get Ichigo to admit that he liked Rukia all along. Once he did that, all emotions were released and Ichigo and Tatsuki left Ichigo and Rukia to themselves. Now it was that morning and Naruto was summoned to a captain's meeting. Probably to discuss my part in the upcoming war, thought Naruto. Naruto walked into the room and noticed the 3 missing captains, and how injured most of the others looked. He smiled, knowing that no matter how tough they acted, they would still need his help in the next few months. So already discussing war plans? I would like to say that I will be helping all the humans in their training, and I would like a few Soul Reapers who I believe have potential to come to the human world. We will be the front line, and when Aizen sends his main force, you show up and kill his army, while I end him, stated Naruto, as he could tell the captains were considering what he said.